watching Fox 35 News Plus, streaming on Fox Local.
Well, good morning to you and welcome into Fox 35 News Plus. I'm Garrett Weimer and thanks for joining us on this Friday morning live on Fox Local and on YouTube. It's been an eventful morning if you have been watching on Fox Local. I think everything is back up and running now, but we had to step in here from our streaming studio, step in on TV for a little bit while we were recovering from some sort of power hit. Unclear what exactly happened, but I think we're back in business. Think everything is up and running now, and we appreciate you joining us again on this Friday morning. Let me give you a live look right now. We are awaiting a news conference. Hakeem Jeffries, the leader of the House Democrats, getting ready to speak to reporters on what is day 24 of the government shutdown. So we expect to hear from him yesterday that the Senate failed to advance a bill that would have approved pay for essential federal workers. And so things are really kind of remain at a stymie at this point. So we will see what Hakeem Jeffries has to say coming up in just a little bit. Also, we are looking ahead to tonight and Game 1 of the World Series that you'll be able to watch live on Fox. This is a live look right now at the Rogers Center in Toronto, where the Dodgers and the Blue Jays will face off starting tonight. So a lot of excitement over that. And the Fall Classic getting ready for a first pitch a little bit later this evening. And again, you'll be able to watch that game right on Fox. But we are tracking a story that has kind of been developing throughout the morning as we've learned some more details about a deadly crash in St. Cloud, a body found in a burned out car there. Just moments ago, we had the chance to speak with the PIO for the police department and fire rescue, who talk about what we know about this situation. This is Andrew Sullivan, who's the PIO for St. Cloud Police and St. Cloud Fire Rescue, talking us through what we know about this situation in St. Cloud as crews remain on the scene at this hour.
Yeah, we're working a fatal car fire that was reported this morning at about 4 o'clock in the morning. Police and fire crews arrived on scene at the 400 block of Virginia Avenue, found a vehicle engulfed in flames from the engine compartment. Our fire department put the vehicle out, extinguished the flames, and discovered that there was a body inside the vehicle. We've been working since then to determine the cause of the fire and exactly what happened here. As you see, we have the medical examiner. They're on scene right now to assist us. We have identified that the driver is male in his 60s. He is dead, he's deceased. And we're working now to find out what the cause was. We got calls this morning. They reported that they saw in their front yard or in a neighbor's yard that the vehicle seemed to be off the driveway and into the grass. So we're not sure if it was a mechanical failure on the vehicle part, if maybe the driver was experiencing a medical episode. That's what we hope to uncover in our investigation today. That's the facts as we know them right now. We would ask that people, of course, drive safely. Avoid the area. We're going to be here for a little while doing the work, so Virginia Avenue from 4th Street to 5th Street is going to be closed for some time today, so just be patient as we do our jobs. Yeah, we're working a fatal car fire.
And so that's what we know about that situation in St. Cloud, and again, still an active scene at this hour. Well, today we are also following up on this sports betting investigation and the probe by the FBI and the Department of Justice that resulted in multiple arrests, more than 30 arrests in connection with this scheme. Coming up a little bit later in the show, we are going to hear from an investigator who has worked for nearly 3 decades with the FBI, talking to us about these investigations like this, giving us some insight and a little bit of a peek behind the curtain into kind of how all this might have gone down and where things go from here. So we will have that for you in just a little bit. We are also learning more about this crash where 10 people were injured, including 9 kids. This happened during a crash last night in Orange County. All 10 of those people were inside one car. Some good news today with some of those kids being released from the hospital, but Fox 35's Marley Capper has the latest on what we know about that crash.
Good morning. We're here at Arnold Palmer. 4 children have been released from the hospital. There's still 5 here. 1 adult is in the hospital. They're all in stable condition. This crash happened in Orlando, right in front of Carver Middle School. The neighbors across the street say that they've never heard a crash so loud. Take a look at the video on Raleigh Street near Campanella Avenue. One car was crunched into a tree. The hood ripped off as first responders had to carefully pry someone out. While the exact speed is under investigation, troopers say the driver of the red Alfa Romeo was going faster than the posted 30-mile-per-hour speed limit when he ran into the back of the silver Nissan Altima. That forced the silver car off the road and into a tree. Take a look at this doorbell security camera footage from across the street, which shows the frantic aftermath. A witness says she pulled one of the children out.
It's heartbreaking. I pray that the family is okay. I said I was going to try to do my follow-up to see, because I stayed all the way till they took the babies, because I had the one baby trying to keep her alive, keep her awake,
Troopers say the speeding driver is cooperating. He was not arrested, but troopers say the investigation continues and criminal charges are pending. Troopers also want to know why 10 people were in one car that only had 5 seats. And as a reminder from the Florida Highway Safety and Motor Vehicle, everyone in a car, children included, need to have their own seat and a seat belt. Children 0 to 3 need to be in a car seat, and kids under 5 here in the state of Florida need to be in some safety device, whether that's a booster seat or a seatbelt harness. For now, reporting in Orlando, Marley Capper, Fox 35 News.
There's still a lot of questions about that situation. We are continuing to follow up on that today as well. We're going to take a quick break here on Fox 35 News Plus, and when we come back, we'll get you to Washington, D.C. and hear from House Democratic leader Hakeem Jeffries speaking about the government shutdown. So keep it right here. More Fox 35 News Plus after this.
You're watching Fox 35 News Plus, streaming on Fox Local.
Day 24 of the government shutdown, now the second longest government shutdown in history. This is Congressman Hakeem Jeffries, a Democrat from New York, and the House Minority Leader, who is speaking to reporters right now. Go ahead and listen in.
In the Senate on trying to pay federal workers that are currently furloughed right now. Would you support any legislation that comes out of the Senate, and are you aware of any talks, similar talks happening in the House between House Republicans and House Democrats?
Yeah, we're prepared to support any bipartisan legislation that comes out of the Senate that is designed to decisively address the Republican health care crisis, reopen the government, and enact a bipartisan spending agreement that actually makes life better for the American people. That's what we're prepared to support.
Leader Jeffries, good morning. I understand the Democrats' position on health care and Obamacare here, but with the open enrollment period starting on the 1st, hasn't that ship legislatively sailed?
No, the challenge is going to become even more significant for Congress and the president to deal with if this government shutdown drags on to November 1st. Open enrollment starts on November 1st. At that point in time, Americans all across the country are going to begin to further realize that their premiums, copays, and deductibles are going to skyrocket. And why is that happening? Because Republicans decided earlier this year that they'd rather gut Medicaid and then provide massive tax breaks to their billionaire donors, make those tax breaks permanent, but now, as we approach open enrollment, have zero interest in actually extending Affordable Care Act tax credits that benefit working families, middle-class families, and everyday Americans. And so the crisis has grown worse because of Republican inaction over the last several weeks. And if we get to November 1st and we hit open enrollment and Republicans have still refused to act with respect to the Affordable Care Act tax credits, I think that's going to increase the intensity and need for urgent legislative action to take place.
Is retroactivity viable?
Yes.
Explain.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Leader. Senator Thune has maintained that he believes a path out of this shutdown will come from rank-and-file members in the Senate, bipartisan conversations, maybe even a gang. You and Leader Schumer have maintained that the path out of this is with the conversation with the president. Can you help kind of reconcile the position that Leader Thune has in that things will come up from bipartisan rank-and-file conversations and you saying that Democrats need to talk to the president? Why do you think that there's a gap between how you both see the path out of the shutdown?
Well, Republicans in the House and the Senate, from the very beginning of the Trump presidency, haven't functioned like they are a separate and co-equal branch of government. What we've seen from Republicans in the House and the Senate is that they behave like a wholly owned subsidiary of Donald Trump and the Trump cartel. That's how they behave. A reckless rubber stamp for Donald Trump's extreme agenda, even when they're hurting their own constituents, because that's what Republicans did in the one big ugly bill. Largest cut to Medicaid in American history, ripped food from the mouths of children, seniors, and hungry veterans. And as a result of Republican policies that they rubber stamped, what we've seen is that hospitals, nursing homes, and community-based health centers are closing in their own communities. And they can care less, because when Donald Trump says jump, they simply respond, boss, how high? That's how Republicans have operated during the entirety of this presidency. And so, of course, our position has been, and I said this directly to the president with Johnson and Thune right next to me, this does not get resolved until you decide to give permission to Republicans on Capitol Hill to negotiate a bipartisan resolution.
Jeffrey. Thank you. What is your reaction to now the third strike against suspected drug boats in the Caribbean just this week?
Well, it certainly is the case that we need to see the information from the administration justifying these strikes, both in terms of substance and in terms of the legal authority that they believe authorizes them in the absence of congressional action. Part of the problem that we have with House Republicans being on vacation for the last 4 weeks is that we don't even have the opportunity for the House to be briefed in its entirety on matters of domestic policy, and in this particular instance, on matters of national security, because House Republicans are gone. It's extraordinary. They've been on vacation for 4 weeks. They're getting paid for doing nothing, and then House Republicans are forcing hardworking federal employees to either be furloughed without pay or to work without pay, while they've refused week after week after week to show up. Mike Johnson needs to bring Republicans back now. Enough. This is ridiculous.
Lady Jeffries.
Yep.
Thank you, Leader. So you just said that Republicans are hurting their own constituents, and I understand that SNAP is a broad issue that affects millions, but in your home state alone, 3 million people are expected to lose their benefits next month. And you say you're ready to accept anything bipartisan out of the Senate. We have 3 Democrats who are voting for this right now.
We said, no, I said we're ready to consider anything that emerges in a bipartisan way in good faith from the Senate.
Thank you. Regardless, this is still a bipartisan effort right now to extend Biden's funding levels. If Democrats continue to not vote, reach the 60-vote filibuster, then does the party take this fallout responsibility?
No, and I disagree with the premise that we're extending Biden funding levels. That's a Republican talking point. This is not that complicated to understand. That in December of 2024, a bipartisan spending bill was enacted, overwhelmingly passed in the House and the Senate, signed into law by President Joe Biden. That was in December of 2024. Donald Trump supported that agreement after detonating the original bipartisan agreement. In March of 2025, a partisan Republican spending bill was enacted that lowered the spending levels, and in our view, as Democrats, which is why in the House we overwhelmingly opposed it, hurt veterans, hurt nutritional assistance, hurt housing affordability, and hurt health care. That's why we opposed it, because that March spending bill wasn't Biden-level spending, it was Trump partisan-level spending, which they further aggravated by engaging in impoundments and rescissions in violation of the law in the 6 months that followed that March spending bill, partisan Republican spending bill, being jammed down the throats of the American people. So, first of all, we've made clear we will not support a partisan Republican spending bill that continues to gut the health care of the American people. We've been saying that for 6 weeks. We have not moved off of our position. We're going to continue to defend the health care of working class Americans, middle class Americans, and everyday Americans. Thanks.
Do you have anything positive to say about Mamdani, and do you recognize that your refusal to do so is splitting the Democratic Party?
I traveled throughout the country, and the Democratic Party is as unified as I've seen us throughout the entirety of this year, and you're about to experience that in real time. This won't be hypothetical. You're about to see it in real time in Virginia, in New Jersey, and in California as it relates to Prop 50. As I've said, I will have more to say about the mayor's race when I have more to say about the mayor's race in advance of early voting when I'm back home tomorrow.
What is the strategy behind waiting until the 11th hour to weigh in on the New York mayor's race?
This question has been asked and answered repeatedly. Thanks.
Virginia is now entering the redistricting arena. They're planning to redraw House maps. So what do you make of this ongoing redistricting battle that seems to be occurring between the red states and blue states?
We have made clear that Donald Trump is trying to rig the midterm elections by gerrymandering congressional maps all across the country, and Democrats are going to continue to respond immediately, forcefully, and consistently with our view that the American people in a midterm election deserve free and fair elections, not rigged elections. And that's what Donald Trump is trying to do. The question that has to be asked is if all of the bravado that we see from Donald Trump, from Mike Johnson, from House and Senate Republicans, if all of the bravado is true, why are they engaging in unprecedented efforts to gerrymander congressional maps as part of some toxic scheme to rig the midterm elections? Here's the answer. Because Mike Johnson knows the House is gone as it relates to Republicans. Gone. Because they have failed to deliver for the American people. They haven't made life better for everyday Americans. They've made life better for their billionaire donors. That's what the one big ugly bill was about. Inflation through the roof. Costs out of control. Trump tariffs costing the American people thousands of dollars more per year in expense. And now they're about to jack up premiums, copays, and deductibles on top of what they've already done to health care, which includes the largest cut to Medicaid in American history, a possible $536 billion cut to Medicare at the end of this year, hospitals and nursing homes and community-based health centers closing because of Republican policies throughout the country, vaccines no longer available in the manner that they should, kids in places like South Carolina and beyond. This is a 5-alarm fire in healthcare that Republicans have created. And that's why Republicans are gerrymandering congressional maps in places all across the country. But here's the thing. They did not expect Democrats to be able to forcefully respond. But the stakes are too high. And we are not going to unilaterally disarm, and we will not let Republicans mathematically change the congressional map so they can artificially hold on to power when the American people are ready to throw them out of office.
What actions are House Democrats, the Democratic leadership in general, taking to ensure SNAP benefits be paid in November? And are you confident that recipients will receive their benefits even if the government is still shut down?
The Trump administration has the resources now, including through an emergency contingency fund that has about $5 billion in it, to ensure that not a single American goes hungry if they refuse to reopen the government on November 1st. Not a single American should go hungry. And the challenge that we confront right now is that Donald Trump and Republicans on Capitol Hill are trying to weaponize hunger in order to jam their extreme right-wing policies in their spending bill down the throats of the American people. That's unacceptable. That's un-American. That's unconscionable. That Republicans are actually trying to weaponize hunger across the country. And here's the thing. This group of people, these extremists on the other side of the aisle, we will not let them lecture the American people about nutritional assistance when in their one big ugly bill, they cut $186 billion. These are Republicans this year, $186 billion from the Supplemental Nutritional Assistance Program. That's the largest SNAP cut in American history. And people believe right now that Republicans actually care about hunger when they ripped food away from the mouths of hungry children, seniors, families, women, and veterans to provide massive tax breaks to their billionaire donors. Get lost with that in terms of Republican spin. The American people are not buying it. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Leader Hakeem Jeffries speaking to reporters inside the Capitol there. On this day 24 of the government shutdown. We should note, as I mentioned earlier, this is now the second longest government shutdown in history. And yesterday, the Senate failed to advance a Republican bill that would pay essential federal workers during the shutdown. So that means that many federal workers are getting ready to miss their first full paychecks within the next few days. What day specifically depends on where they work, but that is expected. We do expect to hear from Senator Ashley Moody in Kissimmee later today, talking about this issue, the government shutdown. That is scheduled for later this afternoon, and we will bring that to you live here on Fox Local. The Senate is not in session today. The House is only in a pro forma session. It's a procedural thing. They're not actually taking care of any business or anything like that. So that's not going to, no change with the government shutdown today because the Senate is not in session. So that likely to extend throughout the weekend, and we will see where things go from here with that. We're going to take a break here on Fox 35 News Plus, but we'll be right back after this.
watching Fox 35 News Plus, streaming on Fox Local.
Welcome back into Fox 35 News Plus. I'm Garrett Weimer, and thanks for joining us on this Friday morning, live on Fox Local and on YouTube. Breaking news yesterday afternoon, or evening rather, was the rearrest of Robin Severance Lopez. She's the estranged wife of the suspended Osceola County Sheriff Marcos Lopez. They together facing charges, as are several other defendants in connection with this alleged illegal gambling ring in Osceola and Lake counties. She had bonded out of jail, but is now back behind bars, this time in Osceola County, facing new charges over allegedly providing false information on a bail application. Fox 35's Amanda Ruiz has more.
Yes, she just bonded out of jail just a few months ago, and now she's found herself back behind bars with new charges that claim she lied during the process to get herself out of jail the first time. The arrest warrant was issued yesterday out of Lake County, and deputies served it at her home in St. Cloud. Severance Lopez is the estranged wife of suspended Osceola County Sheriff Marcos Lopez. Both of them were arrested back in June for an illegal gambling operation. She was charged with conspiracy to commit racketeering in connection to the case. Then she was issued a $400,000 bond and spent 2 weeks in jail until a judge verified the money was clean and not connected to any illegal activity. But now she's charged with providing false information in a bail application. Prosecutors allege she misrepresented or withheld information related to how her bail was funded.
This is a charge that, I haven't seen in practice in 18 years. We rarely see this kind of charge, but you got to remember the nature and the circumstance around this case. It's a high-profile case. The state attorney's office or the statewide prosecutor's office in this case is going to scrutinize every single document and try to put some pressure to resolve this case one way or the other.
She's expected to appear in court in front of a judge later today. We will be there, and we will keep you updated on how this case develops. Reporting in Osceola County, Amanda Ruiz, Fox 35 News.
Yeah, Robin Severance Lopez scheduled to make that first appearance around 1:30 in Osceola County. We'll do our best to bring that to you live if we have that feed for you coming up a little bit later this afternoon. We're also continuing to track the fallout from this alleged NBA betting ring. Huge news yesterday. We brought you that news conference and a lot of coverage of that throughout the day here on Fox Local as that story first broke, and we learned some more details about it. And today we're getting some more insight on kind of how this would have all gone down. So just to kind of level set here where things stand with what we know about this investigation, there's an NBA head coach and a player among those who are facing charges in connection with multiple illegal gambling schemes. The FBI said more than 30 people were arrested yesterday as part of these different schemes. One of those people was Miami Heat guard Terry Rozier, who was arrested at the team hotel in downtown Orlando yesterday morning after the Miami Heat played the Orlando Magic for the opening game of the season on Wednesday night. Rozier is accused of helping gamblers win bets by essentially leaking them information about the player's health. He's also accused of planning to leave a game early due to an injury and letting bettors know about that as well. One of the others high-profile names facing charges in this is Chauncey Billups. He's an NBA Hall of Famer. He's the Portland Trailblazers head coach right now as well, or at least it was. He is now suspended, but he is accused of a conspiracy to fix high-stakes card games that are tied to the mafia, so organized crime ties in connection with these schemes as well. Investigators believe Billups cheated unsuspecting gamblers out of at least $7 million and used some high-tech items to do it. Some technology that seems like it's straight out of a movie, like contact lenses or glasses to read marked cards, an x-ray table that could read cards that were put face down. Like I said, it's like stuff out of a spy movie or something like that. Billups and Rozier were granted bond yesterday afternoon in court. They're currently suspended from their roles in the NBA. But I had the chance just a little bit ago to speak with Rick Simpson. He is the founder and president at the Fairway LLC. It's an investigation and business consulting firm out of Fort Lauderdale. He served in the FBI for nearly 3 decades and was able to shed some light for us on investigations like this and kind of how they would have helped put the pieces together to lead to an announcement of these indictments. And also what's happening now as we know this investigation continues.
Yesterday I was flying and I got a few text messages, and when I landed, I got an Uber, and that was all the news was talking about in the Uber. So I haven't had the time to actually review any of the affidavits or any of the real details of the case, but certainly I did see a piece of the press conference, and it looks like it's a long-term investigation, involved a lot of people. And a lot of work goes into these cases, and it's a worthwhile cause. People, when they wager on a sport or they wager in a game, they want things to be fair, and it's good that the DOJ take action to try and ensure that fairness for the participants and for the fans in sports. So I think it's a significant case.
Talk to us about some of that work. You worked with the FBI for nearly 3 decades. You know some of what kind of goes into things like this. What would have been going on behind the scenes to kind of lead to this announcement and indictment?
Sure, there's a whole lot of things that could be used. I mean, what I saw in the press conference was that there's organized crime involvement. Typically in organized crime cases, you have cooperators who are providing information from inside the organization that informs the investigation. And then there are a lot of investigative tools that an enforcement agency will use to go and try and gather evidence of what they're hearing from inside the organization, so that the prosecution ultimately won't just rely on cooperators, but other evidence that is collected.
Some of those cooperators, is that who we're seeing when we see these kind of unnamed people in the indictment? It's the co-conspirator 1, co-conspirator 2, who it says their identity is kind of withheld, but it's known to the grand jury.
It's easy to speculate on that, and it's also important as we look at these documents to not jump to conclusions. It's important for the public to, in a sense, reserve judgment, because people, as the director of the FBI said, people are innocent until proven guilty. So it's important to follow the case because it's interesting. It's an important case. At the same time, let the process play out and see what evidence is there and judge the evidence as it comes out, as opposed to prejudging things.
You mentioned the organized crime element, and what does that, how does that make an investigation different when you kind of have that kind of interplay with it, and what's different about an investigation involving something like that, or some ties to organized crime, as opposed to something that's not?
Well, I mean, there's a long history there. It's very interesting. The FBI New York office had squads for virtually every LCN family, and it was interesting to see in the press conference the various families mentioned, because I don't recall seeing that in recent history. So it's interesting to see that a case of this scale involving the organized crime families, the LCN, it tells us that it's still active. It hasn't gone away, and it's something for the enforcement agencies to continue to address.
It's one of those things that you kind of think about in the realm of the past, or maybe in mob movies, but to hear it kind of described, and the involvement or alleged involvement in something like this is kind of, I think, eye-opening for people.
It is. We haven't seen a lot of LCN type prosecutions in recent years. So that's very interesting and something to follow. Another thing that was mentioned in the press conference that I noted is that the investigation is very active. I think I heard a number of 30 different people were arrested. So they are certainly looking for more evidence of crimes that they believe may have happened, and looking, to expand this web and this investigation to move on to prove other crimes.
How does something like this unravel in your experience? Obviously, we can't speak specifically to this case, but what is kind of the thread here that begins that unraveling? How do they follow the money to unravel something like this that seems to have its to mix metaphors, to have its kind of tentacles in a lot of different ways?
So we like to say, working organized crime, white collar crime, going back to my first days at the FBI Academy, find the lies and follow the money, and that takes you to the evidence. And as you start to peel the onion, you find one lie, you find another lie. Usually that involves the illegal obtaining of some money via what turns into a wire fraud conspiracy, a wire fraud count, and an indictment down the road. And then you follow the money. So when money is obtained illegally, and then they start trying to hide the proceeds, that's where the money laundering counts come in. And so just keep peeling the onion one lie at a time, and follow the money one transaction at a time, which oftentimes you see the amount of money, when you see big dollar signs and a lot of money, it's hard to imagine when you just see it like a one sentence summary of it, the work that goes into following each transaction. Because as we know, with the digital currencies and even just traditional currencies, money can move around the world at lightning speed, but gaining those records and following it takes a lot of work and a lot of time and a lot of cooperation among a lot of different agencies and entities.
There's been a lot of talk, from the sports betting aspect of this case and kind of the ramifications of that. How closely are those things, watched? And as we continue to see some cases like this, do you think that's something that it will fall under further scrutiny when it comes to looking into, other potential investigations to check for things like this and see where else alleged schemes like this might be happening?
Sure. That was a long question. I think overall, this type of investigation where this number of people are arrested, in the realm of sports betting, is going to have hopefully a deterrent effect on I think someone looks at something and goes, hey, they maybe got some inside information and made a small bet and they think it's not a big deal. But then you see someone get arrested and you go, okay, it's fine to sit down and watch a football game and put some money on the team you want to win or something. But if you have an opportunity to take advantage of some inside information, just same thing in the business world with the stock market and that sort of thing. Beware of where the lines are and don't go near them.
That's a good point there. What's the bottom line here? What should people know? What should they take away and keep in mind when we hear about and when we talk about this case?
I would say the bottom line is there is still an element of organized crime in society, and their enforcement agencies are doing what they can to address it, working hard to address it, and then just as the public watches and follows these cases and prosecutions, just reserve judgment, wait for the evidence to come out and see what happens.
And know that a lot of work is going on behind the scenes, as you said.
Absolutely. Yeah.
All right. Rick Simpson, we appreciate you joining us.
Thanks for having me.
We're going to take a break here on Fox 35 News Plus. We'll be right back after this.
You're watching Fox 35 News Plus, streaming on Fox Local.
Welcome back into Fox 35 News Plus. I'm Garrett Weimer, and thanks for joining us on this Friday morning, live on Fox Local and on YouTube. I'm going to take you down to South Florida for a little bit, where Congresswoman Debbie Wasserman Schultz, a Democrat from Florida's 25th district, is holding a roundtable discussion, or held a roundtable discussion, and currently holding a news conference about the Latinos in Action programs in schools. This is a pretty common program across many Florida school districts and other places across the country as well. She's talking today about how she believes it benefits all students. Specifically, her focus is Broward County Public Schools, which is a part of her district, and concerns that it is a target, or has become a target, of the Trump administration's anti-DEI effort. We should note that the U.S. Department of Education recently sent letters to several Florida counties, not just Broward, but Polk County and also Seminole County here in Central Florida, about canceling that program. According to the letter, they say the enrollment model for this Latinos in Action program sets an unlawful racial quota, essentially. Now, the program itself says it's open to all students, though, and we still have seen other districts suspended, other school districts suspending this program for fear of losing federal funding. That happened in a number of counties, including Lee, Osceola, Volusia, Orange, and Hillsborough counties, according to records showing that. And so Congresswoman Debbie Wasserman Schultz now calling on the Department of Education to halt the plan to terminate the program, holding this news conference today with some other advocates, some alumni and students from the program, talking about what she sees to be the benefit from having this program in schools. So she's speaking right now in South Florida. I want to take you to the beginning of that news conference just a few moments ago.
Discuss the harm that the cancellation of this successful program will have in our community. The bigger picture here is the war that Donald Trump has declared on any efforts that we make to ensure that everyone in this nation can be successful and included in the American dream. As part of that, just last month, the Trump administration's Department of Education forced Broward schools to end their highly successful Latinos in Action program by threatening to withhold millions of dollars in unrelated magnet school funding from the district, which has no connection to Latinos in Action and likely isn't even legal. This decision was based off an inaccurate claim by Trump's Department of Education Office of Civil Rights that the Latinos in Action program at Broward schools was exclusionary to non-Latino students and therefore supposedly violated Title VI. Let me be clear. This program did not only include Hispanic students in Broward County. It was open to everyone, and during our discussion, the teachers and alumni made it very clear that they had all different kinds of students in these classes. And so it was obvious that the Office of Civil Rights and the Department of Education didn't even scratch the surface to try to determine whether this program was in compliance with Title VI or not. El Programa Latinos en Action proporciona a los distritos escolares recursos curriculares para impulsar la educación y las habilidades de liderazgo y está abierto a todos los estudiantes. Sin embargo, la administración Trump recientemente señaló el programa como parte de su ataque nacional a los esfuerzos de diversidad. This claim is blatantly false. The Latinos in Action course at Broward schools has always been open to students of any background, but because this program celebrates Hispanic culture and community, it's fallen in the crosshairs of the Trump administration's nationwide attacks on diversity efforts. Es claro que la administración Trump apuntó a este programa exitoso basado en información falsa como parte de su impulso para atacar cualquier esfuerzo destinado a dar a todos los estudiantes la oportunidad de sobresalir y tener éxito. Our schools, they should be allowed to serve the specific needs of their community. There's no justification for Trump to attack a program that celebrates this community while still being inclusive of all students. Our local schools know our local needs, and all our students deserve the chance to learn and lead, and there are many approaches to achieving those goals, and educators rightly use a variety of methods to spark students' passion and potential. And I can tell you, I saw that passion and potential that was brought out by the Latinos in Action program from the students who are here today, who have gone on to greater heights and attribute their success to the motivation they were able to, and the community that they were able to find in the Latinos in Action program. Latinos en Action ha ayudado a todos nuestros estudiantes a crecer como académicos y líderes hace casi una década. I will continue to fight for the administration to rescind this baseless decision that not only affects Broward, but school districts across Florida. Lucharé contra esta decisión infundada y contra todo ataque a las oportunidades educativas que benefician a todos nuestros estudiantes. Polk and Seminole counties received similar letters to Broward related to the program, and several other Florida districts also opted to suspend the program for fear of losing funding, including those in Lee, Osceola, Volusia, Orange, and Hillsborough counties. That's why this week I led a letter signed by all of Florida's Democratic congressional delegation, no Republican would sign the letter, calling on Trump's Office of Civil Rights within the Department of Education to rescind its baseless decision. Dide la delegación demócrata de Florida en denunciar al ataque de Trump al programa Latinos en Acción. The department should give school districts like Broward the chance to prove their compliance with Title VI. That is what the law requires. Because if the department simply looked at the contract between Broward schools and Latinos in Action, they would see that there's an explicit anti-discrimination clause. Broward Schools also maintains their position that this program has never excluded any student because of race, ethnicity, or background, but instead of giving the district an opportunity to prove compliance with federal anti-discrimination laws, which is how this process has always worked, the department conducted an incomplete investigation. And it was clearly motivated by a political agenda. So we're asking in this letter for the administration to right this wrong. Like you will soon hear from the people behind me, this program makes a positive impact. That's an understatement. On thousands of students and staff at Broward schools. And when Trump targets our kids, especially without the accuracy or facts, you can bet I will defend them every single time. Now I'd like to turn it over to the chair of the Broward County School Board, Debbie Hickson. Madam Chair.
Thank you. Good morning. Really excited to be able to participate in the roundtable today with these amazing students and teachers, some of them alumni. Some in tears, explaining how the Latinos in Action program was able to bring them from someone who didn't speak English very well to actually tutoring other students to speak English, as they got older and became high school students. It's a program about leadership. It's a program about community. We've heard over and over again that students participate from all different countries. It's a celebration of diverse cultures, not just one in particular, but it was a place where people who came from countries where they didn't understand or didn't speak English very well, it was a place they felt safe. So it may have had the name Latinos in Action, but it was really a cultural diversity of people who didn't feel comfortable in the school because they didn't understand the language, and they all didn't understand it in different ways, but were able to learn English together. So it's really disheartening that we find ourselves in a place where we had to make a choice. Of course, we follow the law, but we celebrate the students who are successful, and we hope that there's some kind of change that allows us to continue this amazing program in our schools. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Madam Chair.
As she transitions to another speaker here, that was just the Broward County School Board Chair. We will hear from Andrea Bruno with the Latinos in Action on the other side of this break. Going to take a quick break here on Fox 35 News Plus, and we'll be right back. Welcome back into Fox 35 News Plus. Want to get you back to this news conference in Sunrise just moments ago as they're talking about the Latinos in Action programs across the state of Florida.
In our communities. I stand here today not just as the regional program manager for Latinos in Action, but as a proud immigrant and former LIA student. I joined Latinos in Action in 8th grade, just a year after arriving in this country. It was in that class that I finally felt like I belonged. I connected with classmates who shared similar stories, reconnected with people from my childhood, and found a supportive community that made me feel seen and valued. Through Latinos in Action, I learned what it means to serve others, lead with purpose, and to believe in myself. I continued in the program through high school and eventually became part of the leadership board. I completed over 2,500 community service hours in high school, putting service before self. In my senior year in 2022, I received a special congressional recognitions from Congresswoman Duffy for my service to the community, as well as recognitions from the Florida House of Representatives for academic excellence and leaderships. Awards that reminded me how far I had come because of the values that LIA has and that instilled in me, to serve, to lead, and to uplift others. The lessons I learned in LIA pushed me to aim higher. I graduated college in just 3 years with a double major and recently completed my master's degree in just 2 months. But this is just my story. You will be amazed to see the incredible stories of perseverance, growth, and leadership that I witness every single day from students in this program. Now I have the privilege of giving back to the same program that shaped who I am. I oversee 49 middle and high schools here in Broward County with the program, and every week I get to meet students from every background you could think of, representing the diversity that makes our community so special. Students who choose to be part of Latinos in Action because they want to grow, lead, and make a difference. Latinos in Action is not a program that divides. It is a program that unites. It is an elective course that any student can choose to join. No one is forced, everyone is welcomed. In our classrooms, students build confidence, develop leadership, and learn to communicate across cultures and languages, skills that prepare them for college, career, and life. We're preparing the next generation of leaders, students who know how to serve, to collaborate, and to lift others as they rise. Latinos in Action is more than just a class. It's a familia, a place where students find belonging, purpose, and hope. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Andrea. Next, I'd like to introduce Reina Tejeno, who's a retired teacher who taught the Latinos in Action class.
Good morning, and thank you for having us here to express ourselves. I've been a teacher for 37 years, 25 in Broward County. So I retired in 2023, and I had the honor of teaching Latinos in Action for 8 years. I'm here because this program is too important for us to lose. I have seen timid and sure students walk into the classroom and walk out as leaders, confident, compassionate, and proud of who they are. This program is not just a class, it's a lifeline. It gives students a place where they feel seen, where their voice matters, and where they discover they can be successful, not someday, but now. And it welcomes every student, regardless where they come from, their accent, their background, or the challenges they carry. In this classroom, every young person belongs. As a teacher, I had students from everywhere, and no one ever felt that they couldn't be there. They all belong. One student told me that Latinos in Action was one of the most impactful programs that he has ever been a part of. And he gave them the first real experience teaching and made them realize who they wanted to be when they grow up, a teacher, a nurse, a doctor. Another one said, my students, by the way, just shared messages with me last night and constantly telling me how Latinos in Action made them who they are today, the leaders that they have become, and how one of them said, Senora, it embodies the charitable leaders and inspires everyone to be the best version of themselves. Without this program, students lose more than an elective. They will lose a family. Like she said, we are all a familia, a mentor space, and the opportunity to learn who they can become. Closing Latinos in Action does not remove just a course. It removes a doorway. For many of those young people, this is the first place where someone looks at them and says, you are a leader. If we take that away, We are closing their future before they even begin to walk towards it. Latinos in Action is where students learn to serve, to lead, to give back to the communities, to believe in themselves, together, side by side, regardless where they come from, their origin, their background. Please do not take away this from them. If you could see their faces, as a teacher, I saw them every day, the moment they realize they matter, you would understand why this program cannot disappear. So I ask you from the bottom of my heart, please keep LIA alive. Let's continue giving our students a place where they can grow, lead, and shine. Because we can invest in programs like this, we invest in a stronger, brighter future for all. Latinos en Acción no es una clase para latinos, es una clase para líderes del mañana, donde los estudiantes aprenden a hacer presupuestos, a prepararse para universidades. Les enseñamos hasta hacer las solicitudes para que puedan recibir dinero y becas para poder entrar a las universidades, que si no tuvieran esta clase, no hay tiempo en las escuelas para ayudarlos de otra manera, porque es demasiado grande y demasiado trabajo tenemos todos los profesores. Así que, por favor, esta clase tiene que seguir adelante para que los líderes del mañana nos representen y tengamos un mejor futuro. Gracias. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Reina. Thank
You're
you.
welcome.
Okay.
Thank you.
Next, Maria Luisa Pont-Verges.
Thank you. Hi, my name is Maria Luisa Pont-Verges. I'm a mother of two, both kids involved in Latinos in Action. My eldest son was diagnosed with ADHD and a mixed receptive expressive language disorder when he was only 2 years old. And we were told that he would only be able to speak Spanish, and that was it. We should stick to that. When we moved to this country, he had been studying English, but today he's fully bilingual, a straight-A student, and a member of Latinos in Action. When he joined Latinos in Action, he did it because he thought it was going to be an easy class because he spoke Spanish, and it wasn't easy. It was the opposite. It was a tough class. It had nothing to do with being able to speak Spanish. It was a class based on leadership, responsibility, honoring your word, and being accountable for your actions. I was pretty impressed by the program because I was not expecting this. The student had to deal with real life experiences. For a child like mine whose brain is wired differently and he's disorganized and confused, this class was the best thing that could ever have happened to him. He received a lot of encouragement from his teacher and classmates. And during the class period, he would go to Everglades Elementary to tutor younger students in math and in language. And by tutoring, he realized that he had acquired techniques because he had to learn the language, the reading and writing in a special way, so he could use what he had learned and help other kids who were also struggling with the language and with the reading and writing. So I decided to give something back because I felt my child so empowered that I decided to start chaperoning and helping the class. So I went to these field trips and watched the kids work. And one of the things I noticed is that not everybody spoke English. The kids in Latinos in Action, not everybody spoke Spanish, sorry. They spoke English, and some were not even Latinos. There was a Chinese girl in the group, and there was, I think, a girl from Ukraine, and they were all working in Latinos in Action, and as if they were a community, and they were not Latinos, which was very impressive to me. What I liked a lot about the program is that these kids did not have to have a 3.75 GPA to be there. Mm-hmm. They just needed to want to work and help others. Last year, my eldest son, the one with ADHD, won a 3rd place in the short film category competition at the LIA Leadership Conference held at FAO. This is a district event, it's a huge event, and many schools participating in it. He was an 8th grader. He was competing, running against high schoolers, and when he was awarded the prize. And by receiving such a great recognition in a huge auditorium with thousands of people cheering and clapping at him, his life and his self-esteem completely changed. He was all of a sudden became a school hero, not just the kid with the learning difficulties. I looked at his classmates clapping and cheering for him in the audience, and most of them had tears in their eyes, and they were his friends, the people who supported him. And that moment I will never forget. So thank you so much, Latinos in Action.
Thank you so much for sharing your son's story and your experience. And last but not least, Libe Fernandez, an alumni of LIA.
Yeah. Thank you for giving us the opportunity to speak as students and about our experience with this life-changing program, Latinos in Action. I immigrated from Venezuela in 2014 to the U.S., and I've been part of this familia for 8 years, from middle school to high school and now in college. LIA has shaped me as a person that I am today. When I first joined, I found more than a club. I found a community that believed in me, gave me the confidence to believe in myself, and to now be standing here. Through this program, I learned what it means to lead, to serve, and to represent my culture with pride. In high school, I had the honor to serve as vice president of LIA, leading service projects and mentoring younger kids. One of the most meaningful moments was tutoring elementary students who reminded me of myself when I first came to this country. Seeing their excitement as they learned something new showed me how powerful this program truly is. LIA doesn't just create leaders. Today, as a founding president of Latinos in Action at the University of Central Florida, I continue this mission, empowering students to serve their community, embrace their culture, and lead with purpose. What makes LIA special is the heart and diversity that it has. It brings together students from every background, Latino, African American, Asian, white, and more, all united by the same goal, to make a difference. You don't have to be Latino to be part of this familia. We just want to continue to serve and to belong, to celebrate who we are. LIA isn't just about service hours, it's about building a family where everyone is seen, supported, and inspired to give back to the community that we are so blessed to be a part of. So today, I ask you, please don't take away this family, don't take away the program that gives students like me a purpose, a home, and a voice. Thank you.
Don't go away, not to put you on the spot, but you want to do a little bit of that in Spanish?
Oh, yeah.
We're going to get ready to take a quick break here on Fox 35 News Plus, but we've got more coverage to come. So keep it right here on Fox Local and YouTube, and we'll be right back.
casa. Gracias.
Welcome back into Fox 35 News Plus. I want to get you back to this news conference in South Florida about Latinos in Action, those programs, because this is something, an issue that we are seeing here in Central Florida as well. So I want to go ahead and listen in as Congresswoman Desby Wasserman Schultz talks about this with a number of people, and I think might be about to take some questions. So let's go ahead and listen.
Incredible. And I'll just say this, that I think every parent listening to us today knows that there's something that you always need your kids to be able to grab hold of, that centers them in school, that keeps them coming back and motivated. Sometimes it's the drama program, sometimes it's the art program, sometimes it's robotics, computer science, the music program. Latinos in Action is just like that. We need to make sure that we are able to continue this remarkable program that ensures that we are growing the next generation of leaders in our communities across the state. And we have to ensure that there are a variety of opportunities to accomplish that goal. Latinos in Action is one very proven, effective way of doing that, not just for Hispanic students, but for any student who was attracted to their program. And we're happy to take any questions.
Yeah, Congresswoman, what do you hope happens from this? Are you trying to get them to change their decision? The government is shut down, as you know.
Right.
What can happen right now that can reverse this?
Well, hopefully their ears aren't shut down while the government is shut down. I led a letter that every Democratic member of Congress in Florida signed, urging the Department of Education to actually do a real review of this program, and if they do that, which they clearly did not, they would see that this program does not violate Title VI, the law that prevents discrimination in education, and if there were any concerns at all, that they go through the process of corrective action, which is how this process normally works, so that the Broward School District, which certainly would be willing to take corrective action if that were necessary, can make adjustments so that the program can continue. The other thing that is deeply concerning is that Latinos in Action was targeted in only a handful of counties. There are programs all across the country. I certainly don't think that the program should be ended across the country.
My next question is going to be, do you know of any other states where they're cracking down, or is it just Florida?
My understanding is just the handful of counties that they targeted in Florida.
So the rest of the country, no worries?
Everything's
not discriminatory there?
As far as we know.
Can I ask if any of the current students want to say anything?
There's no current students.
No current students?
Oh, you are? Oh, yes, please, go ahead. Please, sorry. I thought you were all
No, it's okay.
Where do you go to school?
Hi, I'm Sarah Ojeda, and I go to Western High School. I'm currently the president there.
How do you spell your name? Both names?
Sarahojeda.
So tell us what it feels like to lose this program since you're currently the president.
Honestly, it's just heartbreaking. I've worked like 3 years just to get to my position, and I've seen so many people in my class come together and make such a beautiful program, and I've met some of my best friends there, and just to know that like at the end of the year I won't have that community anymore. I won't have that space where I have all my friends, you know? That's just the sad part of it.
What would you like the Department of Education to know in Washington about your club, about your class?
It's more than just a community. It is the family, and it's not just Latinos. In my class, I have a Vietnamese. Last year we had a Russian. So it's all parts of the world. It's not just Latinos. And we come together to teach English to little kids and to serve a greater purpose in our community. And why there's no purpose of that to be taken away. We're just bettering our Broward schools, and that should never be taken away.
Any other kids want to say anything?
They're current.
Yeah, say something. Tell us your name and where you go to school.
My name is Jessica, and I go to Northeast High School.
And Jessica, tell us, so you're currently an LIA student?
Yes.
So what are you thinking, hearing all of this you've heard today, and that the government's taking this program away?
It breaks my heart that I'll have to lose the class, and not really much. It's not only the class that makes me feel sad, it's that all the connections that I've built throughout the years, I've been seeing people grow in this class, not only as students, but as leaders too. I've had many people that I admired, just like my past class president, Jenny. And I always keep telling myself, I want to be just like you when I grow up. These people that surround me are not only my family, but also people that I could look up to. It's something I don't want to lose. It's something close to my heart, and it's just something that I feel deeply inside.
Jen, what was your last name, Jessica?
Mendoza Aguilar.
Thank you. I don't want to put her on the spot, but one of our students talked about how when she came to this country from Venezuela, she was in elementary school, and there was a kid who came to her elementary school and tutored her. She spoke no English at all, and didn't have confidence, was a pretty shy person, and she also told me that that was someone that she admired and who inspired her. And when she went to high school, she joined the LIA program and wanted to be able to pay it forward and help lift up the next generation, just like she was helped when she came to this country. So we can't yank the rug out from under these young people. We have to make sure that the laws are applied in a fair way, that they're followed, and that we aren't meting out decisions in a discriminatory, scattershot way. This program was run according to the law, and it is unfair and wrong for the administration to target our community, to yank the rug out from under these kids, and to halt generations, the ability of our public schools to help improve and uplift the lives and enrich the lives of so many of our students in future generations to come. It's unacceptable, and we need to get it changed.
What do I want to ask you from, I forget your name,
Sarah.
Andrea.
Oh, Andrea, yeah, to say something in Spanish for our colleagues at Channel 51.
Yeah, absolutely. Este programa, la verdad, que es abierto para todo el mundo. Es una clase electiva que cualquier estudiante aquí en la Florida, en Broward County, puede pues adquirir y ser parte de. Es un programa de servicio, de liderazgo, donde los estudiantes ellos mismos pues toman la iniciativa de planear eventos, estar involucrados en la comunidad. Entonces, la verdad que es muy triste saber que, bueno, puede que llegar a un final, pero esperamos que con todos estos testimonios de hoy y con todo el esfuerzo que se ha puesto en los últimos años con el programa en el condado de Broward County, pues podamos seguir adelante y continuar con el programa el siguiente año.
And if any of the students want to say anything in Spanish.
Okay. You're good. You don't want to say
anything?
Go ahead.
You're a current student?
No, I'm an alumni.
Alumni.
Yeah. Mi nombre es César David Rodríguez Márquez. Yo estaba en Latino en Acción por 4 años y yo empecé como un estudiante normal. No empecé entendiendo qué era la clase. Yo no sabía nada y en verdad tengo que decir que yo le debo mucho a esta clase. Yo cuando empecé en noveno yo era muy tímido, no tenía muchos amigos y no me gustaba hablar en público y expresarme mucho. Pero en los 4 años que estaba en esta clase, eso todo me ha cambiado. He cogido muchas becas, me ha ayudado mucho a este programa con mi colegio, a seguir adelante, a hacer amigos, a formar conexiones.
At a news conference coming to an end there in Sunrise, where Congresswoman Debbie Wasserman Schultz was joined with some alumni, members of the Broward County School Board, organizers with the Latinos in Action, the program that we have seen in a number of school districts across the state. And as the Congresswoman made the point, her concern is seeing it come to an end in a number of districts after receiving letters from the U.S. Department of Education and some other school districts choosing to suspend their programs for fear of losing federal funding. So this is impacting a number of school districts: Broward, Polk, Seminole. They got those letters, as we've previously reported, from the U.S. Department of Education. And then, as the Congresswoman said, a number of others chose to suspend them, including Lee County, Osceola County, Volusia County, Orange County, and Hillsborough County. We're going to take a quick break here on Fox 35 News Plus, but we'll be right back after this.
You're watching Fox 35 News Plus, streaming on Fox Local.
Welcome back into Fox 35 News Plus. Here is a live look at Daytona Beach from our Hard Rock Hotel camera. You can see some folks walking along the beach there. The camera moving a little bit, so you can also tell that it's a little windy. We know with Tropical Storm Melissa, as we talked about with Fox 35 Storm Team meteorologist Brooks Garner earlier, we're going to be feeling some more of those indirect impacts along our coast. So going to be seeing that rough surf, going to be seeing more of those rip currents. Also some potential for beach erosion as well. But we know there's a number of other areas, Jamaica, Haiti, that could be hit hard and facing a lot of rain from this storm. National Hurricane Center Deputy Director Jamie Roan gave a briefing just a few minutes ago live on YouTube. Could you give an update on what the NHC in Miami is tracking for this storm? So I want to go ahead and bring you that briefing here. This was from the NHC just moments ago.
Update on Tropical Storm Melissa. Now, before I dig into the forecast and sort of unpack the next several days, I really wanted to start with this satellite image that you can see behind me, because I want you to understand how the hazards extend well away from the center. So here's the center of Tropical Storm Melissa, now at 45 miles per hour. Pressure down to 1,001 millibars and continuing to move very, very slowly, if not erratically. We'll talk more about the future track of that. But look at this heavy area of rain and thunderstorms that extend well to the east of the center of circulation, impacting all the way over to the southern coast of the Dominican Republic, where portions of the coastline, including Santo Domingo, have already received up to 15 inches of rain over the last several days. And you can see from this image, those rains are continuing to impact them. You can see those rains, heavy rains are occurring over Haiti. Now imagine if this storm sort of sits here and moves very, very slowly. These heavy rains are just going to sit over one area for several days. And so that is going to be the take-home message from this storm: long duration impacts over Haiti, Dominican Republic, and Jamaica. So let's talk about the forecast a bit more. Where is it going to go? Now, if I put the cone up here, the cone looks a little unusual owing to this slow motion. You see the cone really doesn't have a good shape to it because the center is not expected to move much over the next several days. So for the next sort of day or so, sort of a slow northward drift, if you will, and then sometime on Saturday, moving more to the west, but still at a very, very slow pace. I mean, look at this. On Saturday here, and on Monday here, and on Tuesday, still having not passed Jamaica. So even if the storm would have moved south of Jamaica, you're talking about long duration winds, tropical storm, possibly up to hurricane force winds for several days. So imagine tropical storm force winds up to hurricane force winds continuing over an area for 3, possibly 4 days. You're not used to us talking about that sort of long duration sort of phenomenon, but these long duration winds can have a devastating impact even if the wind speeds are not quite as high as you're used to seeing. And then on Tuesday, it finally makes a northeast turn, moving potentially over eastern Cuba and the Bahamas. You're probably next in line. In future updates, we're going to be talking more about your impacts. In terms of watches and warnings, so remember the blue on this map is tropical storm warning and pink is a hurricane watch. So you can see we've got watches and warnings over portions of Haiti and Jamaica. Now, as the storm finally starts to move over the weekend, Jamaica, you could be upgraded to a hurricane warning over the weekend. Let's talk about the rain. So in this graphic, brighter color, more rain, more flooding potential. You can still see the potential for more heavy rains over the Dominican Republic and Haiti. And if you've been following along, this graphic has sort of gotten more ominous. So remember, this is a 3-day forecast. So this is the rain potential over the next 3 days, not the totality of the storm. So as time marches on, this graphic has sort of painted a heavier rainfall potential because we're getting more into the window of those rains occurring. And you can see these bright reds now clipping the western periphery of Haiti and over Jamaica, where up to 20 inches of rain are possible. If those rains were to occur, you're talking about catastrophic flooding potential, and in the case of Jamaica, potentially during when the heavy winds are occurring. So remember, we talked about the winds occurring over 2 to 3 days. So imagine all that rain on top of it. You're really looking at a catastrophic potential in these areas depicted on this map. So if you're watching us from these areas or you have friends and family in these areas, please make sure they're up to date on the latest information. We will be right back with you tomorrow at the same time with an update, but you can always get more timely information at hurricanes.gov.
Certainly concerning to hear about some of those potential impacts to some of the islands there in the Caribbean. Give you a live look at the White House right now on this Friday afternoon. And again, thanks for joining us here on Fox 35 News Plus. President Trump has promised to cut costs for fertility drugs and expand treatment access when it comes to IVF, in vitro fertilization. In fact, one of the groups, the U.S. division of Merck, EMD Serono, says they are going to cut the price of IVF drugs up to 84%. The Department of Health and Human Services says that a single round of IVF can cost up to $25,000, and many couples require multiple rounds. So what does this mean for IVF? Dr. Mark Trollis is a board-certified reproductive endocrinology and infertility specialist, and he was on Good Day Orlando this morning to talk about that.
Let's talk a little bit about these discounts that will be coming. How do you know if you qualify for these? Is this something that you would have to apply for?
Well, what you're saying is the real crux of the matter. Certainly, anything that increases access to for infertility patients and IVF are welcome. But we don't have a lot of answers. There's verbiage about eligible patients, but what does that mean? That needs to be clarified. EMD Serono is discounting a drug that's not available in this country yet. It's going to be competing with sort of another company that really had a monopoly on this type of fertility medication. In exchange for the discount, EMD Serono is going to be getting a faster approval process to get it available by the FDA in this country. But we don't have all of the answers. But I just want to mention the fact that self-pay or cash pay patients already have significant discounts through specialty pharmacies, through specialty benefit providers, as well as major payers. So it remains to be seen exactly who's eligible and what we're looking at in terms of comparative discounts for these patients.
Right. And some people.
Still some questions about that, and you can find that full interview on fox35orlando.com. But I want to get you live now to Philadelphia International Airport, where U.S. Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy holding a news conference now. Day 24 of the government shutdown. He says that this ongoing shutdown is putting unnecessary stress on the transportation system and its workers. So let's go ahead and listen in live as Secretary Duffy speaks.
That our controllers are under right now, I think, is unacceptable. Now, I want to be clear. There'll be a question about, is the system safe? And I would say yes, it is safe, because if we don't have enough controllers, if we have controllers that are more stressed and less able to do the job, we pay close attention to that, and we will reduce the capacity of airplanes taking off and landing, or we will cancel flights. And so you can and very well may see delays in the system, but that's because our priority is you getting from point A to point B and getting there safely. I'm less concerned about you getting there on time. I want you to be safe. And so as we have seen over the course of the shutdown, what we're day 23, 24, we've had different areas of the airspace, different TRACON centers and towers that have had staffing shortages, and then in certain regions of the country, we've seen delays. And it's not been one place, it's been moving throughout the airspace. I've asked our controllers, please show up for work. And those who do show up for work, I thank them. They're great American patriots who come to work every single day knowing that they don't have a paycheck going into their bank account, even though they're providing critical services to the American economy. So I thank them for coming to work, and I encourage them to continue to come to work as we navigate the shutdown. I do think there's a frustration with our controllers that Hakeem Jeffries, Chuck Schumer, Bernie Sanders, they're all going to get their paychecks, while these men and women who control our skies aren't going to be paid because of the shutdown. I think there's also a frustration that the shutdown is about paying for health care benefits for illegal immigrants. I think our controllers, who again are great Americans, want their Congress to focus on America and Americans, and are asking the question, why is the Congress, why are Senate Democrats focused on health care benefits for illegals? Maybe focus on me and my paycheck and the services that I provide. Open up the government, negotiate, have a conversation, but don't hold them, their paychecks, their families hostage so you can give benefits to illegal migrants. I think that truly is an overarching concern and theme, and I appreciate that NACA doesn't get political. They don't. But what I think you will hear from Nick is they're asking for the government to open. They're asking for everyone to come together, make sure they all get paid, and then take the time to have conversations, to negotiate. But the answer is never shut down the government. The answer is open the government and then have a dialogue, come to a resolution. Try that approach before you actually shut it down and affect people's travel. By the way, I'm also concerned as we're coming into holiday season, we have more people using our airspace, more people taking flights. And when that happens and they see more delays, I want to make sure every American knows I've done all I can by modernizing the airspace, making sure we have more air traffic controllers. But if you're seeing an increase in shutdowns right now, or delays, not shutdowns, more delays, more cancellations, it is because the Democrats won't open the government back up. Before I turn it over to Nick, I want to mention one last thing. Many of you have reported on the fact that we don't have enough air traffic controllers. We're about 2,000 to 3,000 air traffic controllers short in the system. And I have developed a plan to supercharge air traffic controllers, get more of them into the system. It's going to take, a couple years.
For assistance, please visit a ground transportation counter located in each of the baggage claim areas. We want you to be safe.
We do want you to be safe, and the PA system does work at the airport. But we're supercharging air traffic controllers, bringing the best and the brightest, per the direction of President Trump, into this great profession. It takes time to do that. The academy takes time. Then once they're out in one of the facilities, it takes anywhere from 1, 2, sometimes 3 years to get trained up. And so we're getting word back right now from our academy in Oklahoma City that some of our young controllers in the academy, and some who have been given spots in the next class of the academy, are bailing. They're walking away. They're asking themselves, why do I want to go into a profession where I could work hard and have the potential of not being paid for my services? And so we're seeing that real consequence right now. That affects my ability to continue this surge and get more people, more young, well-trained controllers into our system. And so I want to lay out what's happening, make sure America knows what the consequences are for a foolish shutdown on behalf of illegals, because it has impacts on the traveling public's life as they see more delays in the system. I find that to be unacceptable. I have more value for our controllers that I think we're seeing from the Congress. And again, I would ask our controllers to show up for work, and I would ask Democrats in the Senate to have a vote, open up the government, and then sit down and have a conversation and negotiate. And with that, I'm going to turn over to the chair of NACA, Nick Daniels, who is, again, we don't agree on everything, but we've been good partners just in the sense of trying to take care of the controllers who work so hard on our airspace. So Nick Daniels.
So good afternoon. I am Nick Daniels. I'm the proud president of the National Air Traffic Controllers Association. America's air traffic controllers, we didn't ask to be the focus of this shutdown. Yet, every day, we're carrying the full weight. Every single day, We move over 45,000 aircraft, 3 million passengers. We move tons of cargo that keeps America running, protecting the national airspace system, and even more importantly, people's lives. They're showing up every single day under immense stress, under uncertainty, having to stay focused on performing the day in and day out tasks. And every day that this shutdown drags on with no clear end sight, this affects their focus. And our job as air traffic controllers is to mitigate risk, and it's also to call it out. Air traffic controllers, our job is to communicate for the safety of the flying public. And as this shutdown continues, and air traffic controllers are not paid for the vital work that they do day in and day out, that leads to an unnecessary distraction. And they cannot be 100% focused on their jobs, which makes this system less safe every day that this shutdown continues. Tomorrow will be less safe than today, and as the Secretary said, now we have to figure out how to mitigate that to ensure the safety of every passenger and every plane that flies in our skies. There is no version of this scenario that we have been forced into where an American worker can work 6 days a week, 10 hours in a day, only have 4 days off in a month, and have to deal with their greatest priority, which is taking care of their family, to provide for them, to put gas in a car, to put food on a table, to ensure their kids have shelter, or that they have a level of care while they do go and do the very important job of being an air traffic controller and running America's skies. And the calls have already begun. Air traffic controllers have called and said, I've picked up a side job. I go to my primary job on a day, an evening, or a midnight shift. And when I complete that shift, I now go to a secondary job. I'm driving for Uber. I'm doing DoorDash. I'm doing Instacart. This job is hard enough 5 days a week. We do it 6. We make the impossible look possible every single day. But now, with this shutdown, we're making the impossible impossible for people to continue to live without money. So some of our lowest paid air traffic controllers in this system, whether they're new or they live paycheck to paycheck just like every other American worker, they will instead be focusing instead of focusing on the safety of the American flying public, they're now focusing on what they can't afford to pay. So as each day passes with this shutdown, more of this nation's air traffic controllers will feel more stress. They'll feel more pressure. And it's the opposite of what they should be focused on. We should be focused on how do we move forward, the cusp of taking care of one another. So air traffic controllers, we didn't start a shutdown. We don't end the shutdown. Our elected officials do. And our message is simple. End the shutdown today.
So we'll take questions in a moment, but just when I was talking to the guys in the break room, they're eating in the break room, and they made sure I knew that the food that they were eating had come from the airlines. The airlines know how important air traffic control is to keeping the sky safe and airplanes moving. And so our airlines, who know the financial pressure that our controllers are under and the gratitude for them showing up, they're buying them food. We shouldn't rely on airlines to have to buy lunch and dinner for our controllers because they can't afford it themselves because the Democrats have shut down the government. But those are the things that are happening inside of all of us who work in the airspace, supporting our fellow brothers and sisters who are going through a time of need. And I want to thank the airlines for recognizing that and supporting and being helpful in the small ways that they can. Again, just providing food for our controllers when they're on the job. With that, if you guys have any questions for us, happy to take them, yes. So the question is, how many delays have been in relationship to air traffic controller shortages? And so it's different every day. So the average on a day is about 5% of our delays would come from staffing shortages with air traffic controllers. We've gone up as high as 53% of the delays have been because of staffing shortages. And that number moves every single day. Because as I mentioned before, we don't have one facility that's a problem every single day. It might be short one day, but then You know, it might be Chicago one day, it might be Atlanta another, it might be Newark a different day. And so it changes day by day. And so it's anywhere between that 5%, we're always been above the 5% in the shutdown, but as high as 53% of delays are from the staffing shortages. Yes? You know, I don't have insight into the hearts and minds of the controllers who are calling out sick, but if I listen to the controllers who talk to me, they'll tell me about their own stresses, financial, and how they have to take a second job, how they're frustrated that they're not going to get paid, and some of them might be sick. But I'm working close with Nick. We're driving a message. I want you to show up. I don't want to see Democrat shutdowns drive pain to the American people. I've asked them, please come to work, and I'm grateful for you to come to work. But maybe that'll be a post-mortem we can do on what happened there and why controllers made the choices that they did. Yeah, so so this is a Philly issue. I am concerned about SEPTA. When you have a system that's $200 million in the hole, we see delays. But do we see fires? I mean, that's a huge problem, right? On trains and on buses. And what's more concerning is that when you have a fire, we all know what a fire is, but the management will say it is a thermal event. What the hell is a thermal event? It's called a fire. So let's not try to massage what's happening. I've had good interactions with the governor. I've asked the governor to step up and lead, to fix the system, to provide the leadership and the money and the resources and the management to make sure that this system is fully operational and safe for the traveling public. You can't get on a train or a bus and have a fire. That is a flashing light and a siren that significant changes need to be made. So I'm not going to front run what happens next, but again, I don't want to talk about consequences. I want to talk about action. I want trains to be safe and to run on time. That's what I want. And if those emergency inspections don't pass, we'll talk about what comes next. So we don't manage your rail. We support, we provide assistance, but Philadelphia leadership, the state leadership has to step in. And by the way, the city works well because you have a system that can move people effectively and efficiently through the community. That's really important. And to make sure it's fully operational and well run is important to us. And we provide oversight, we provide tools, we also provide money. And so, again, what I want to see is the state and the city work together with us to have a plan to fix this system, and that takes engagement, that takes leadership. And so I hope to see that from the city and the governor, and if they're willing to do that, we're going to work with them. Because what I want is, I want a great system for Philadelphia. I mean, that's what I want. And if I can be helpful, I will. If I get resistance, we can be great friends or we can be really bad enemies. I think we should be in the friend business and serve in this community.
Mr. Secretary, Justin Udo from KYW News Radio, you spoke very eloquently earlier about members of Congress and the Senate still getting their paychecks during this time. Are you still getting yours during this time? And if so, do you plan on stopping to stand in solidarity with workers like the workers that aren't being paid now?
Well, so it's a good point. Our workers are going to work. We have furloughed employees that don't come to work, but we have essential services that are provided by people like our air traffic controllers. Those who are working on our modernization effort for air traffic control, it's those people who we've asked to come in and continue that work, because my concern is if there are delays that happen because of this shutdown, 6 months from now, no one remembers that we have delays because of a shutdown. They just think I'm delayed, right? We're not moving on the right timeline. So I've asked those that critical talent to come in and help us move the ball forward, whether it's air traffic controllers or it's within the FAA, to continue the progress in how we're going to have, in a 3-year time period, build a brand new air traffic control system. I can't give up 24 days. I can't give up a month. I don't know how long this is going to go. It could be a month and a half. I can't give that time up. And so,
with your pay, are you still being paid? If so, do you plan on stopping your pay during this time to stand in solidarity?
I would have no problem stopping my pay. By the way, I don't even know if I get paid or not. In Congress, we did, and that was a huge problem. And we dealt with that because first of all, the concept of saying if you're part of government, and especially the Congress, especially the Democrats who aren't funding the government, I never thought it was appropriate that you get paid while the rest of the government does not. Now, if there's back pay, like air traffic controllers, they show up for work, they're going to get paid one day. Those members of Congress, they show up every day, they're going to get paid, but they should be delayed just like everybody else.
So you're saying you will take the delay in your pay?
Yeah, I would have no problem doing that, yes. Yes.
How concerned are you, Dave Sherman, how concerned are you about funding running out for the academy, for training in the towers, and how much do you think we're going to see a big increase in staff outages as that first paycheck gets missed? Has there been any evidence so far that controllers have engaged in improper sick outs today?
So just back to the academy, we're working on the numbers right now. So we pay our students in the academy. They get paid to go to the 4-month school. They're not paid a lot, but they're paid so they can buy food and get to the academy. We help them with their housing. We're about a week to 2 weeks away from running out of money to pay those students, which will be cataclysmic for them. Our instructors already are not paid, and they're still showing up to teach. But again, the disruption that this causes, I've already seen young people drop out of the academy because they're concerned about going into a business where they may not get their funding. And so it's my job to let everyone know these are the consequences of the shutdown. And by the way, what's not partisan is the fact that we need a new system. It's not partisan that we need more controllers. So we're going to continue that work, but it's important to tell everybody this is the hardship that we're under right now because of the shutdown, and it will not be consequence-free in regard to the pipeline that I have in bringing controllers in.
There's a lot of concern this weekend we could start to see really serious disruptions. Obviously, yesterday was 6.6%, but are you concerned if we get to that first paycheck that this could be?
So I think it's a great question. I can't project what's going to happen with our air traffic controllers. I have told them to show up for work, to do their jobs. Nick has told them to show up for work and do their jobs. But I've also heard about the hardship on finding a second job when they already work, many of them 6 days a week as air traffic controllers. I've heard about gas. I've heard about childcare. I've heard about mortgages. I mean, we all look at each other and say, who can go without pay? How does that happen and work for them? And no doubt that puts pressure on their lives, their families. And so I hope that's not the case. I don't want to see any pressure applied to this shutdown because of air traffic controllers. But I can't predict the future. I know they're frustrated. I know they're angry. And I know they want their Congress to think about them and not illegals. I can take one more question. Did anyone else know? You can go again. Have awarded what? So just looking at kind of how the DOT functions, a lot of the money for the projects that we fund, that money is pre-funded. So when you have a shutdown, I already have the money in the door that's allowing me to continue with projects. Now, one of the issues is if I have staffing problems, that can impact my ability to get money out the door. And so it's not that the money's not there, it's that I don't have the staff in place because they've been furloughed to actually execute the agreements or do the oversight that's necessary by federal law for these projects. And so that can be an issue. but much of this has been pre-funded. Just on our air traffic control modernization, we got $12.5 billion in the big, beautiful bill. I need $31.5 in total, but we got a lot of that money up front, which is why we're able to continue to push forward in the modernization effort to make sure we have a brand new air traffic control system in this country. With that, everyone, I want to thank you for coming out. I appreciate you covering the great men and women who keep your skies safe. They keep your planes on time. They do yeoman's work, and so thank you for covering them. And I want to thank also our controllers one last time for their great work. We're grateful for that at DOT, at FAA, and I know America is as well. Thank you.
Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy speaking at the Philadelphia International Airport and talking about the impacts of the ongoing government shutdown. As you see on the lower third there, air travel delays could increase as the shutdown drags on. That was one of his words of warning today, saying that they are trying to get air traffic controllers to come to work as much as they can. But he also acknowledged the reality is that many of them have had to pick up second jobs because they're working without pay. Today is day 24 of the government shutdown, likely to extend through the weekend. And there really hasn't been a whole lot of development when it comes to negotiations or anything like that. So this could be something that continues for a while. And we're coming up on the holiday travel season. We're about a month away from Thanksgiving. So we will see what happens with that. As we heard earlier from Hakeem Jeffries and some others as well have said that they hope that when November 1st comes, and some of those, we start to see some of the other impacts with SNAP benefits, with health care and a number of other things. When open enrollment opens for those with the Affordable Care Act plans, they are hoping that maybe that will kind of spur on some more negotiations. So we'll see what happens with that next week. But at this point, it seems like this could be something that continues on. And we also heard from the National Air Traffic Controllers Association. They're the labor union that represents air traffic controllers. And the president of that group speaking today saying that air traffic controllers really are bearing the brunt of this shutdown, and they just want it to end. They say they aren't taking sides politically. They just want it to end so that their workers can get back to doing what they do. And that is obviously an important job that has to do with, that really takes the safety of a lot of people into their hands. And so we also heard him say, frankly, every day that this continues. It's an added distraction for these workers who are not being paid, and that things could continue to be less safe as the shutdown goes on. So just some more food for thought, some more things to keep in mind as we continue to track these impacts of this government shutdown. We're going to take a break here on Fox 35 News Plus, but we will be back in just a few minutes. We still have a whole lot more to get to and to talk about, so we hope you stay with us. But before we go to break here, let me give you this live look right now inside Rogers Center in Toronto, where it looks like some things already going on, perhaps some rehearsals. It looks like to get ready and prepare for Game 1 of the World Series. It's the Dodgers, it's the Blue Jays. The Fall Classic begins tonight. You'll be able to watch that game on Fox a little bit later tonight. So we're going to talk about that as well. Let me go ahead and just tease ahead to something that we've got in our 2 o'clock hour. We're going to be kind of previewing the World Series, but from a science perspective, and look at some of the ways that some of these players have made improvements that really help propel their team to that stage tonight. We're going to talk with our friends at Driveline Tampa in that 2 o'clock hour, so we hope you join us for that during Florida Live on Fox Local, YouTube, and on Fox 35. So right now, though, we're going to take a break here on Fox 35 News Plus, and we'll be right back after this.
You're watching Fox 35 News Plus, streaming on Fox Local.
Welcome back into Fox 35 News Plus. I'm Garrett Weimer, and thanks for joining us on this Friday afternoon. Let's talk a little football here because the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are dealing with a lot of injuries, and honestly, it's not really a great time to be doing so. They already have a short week coming off a tough Monday Night Football loss against the Lions, and now they are battered up and heading into a big divisional matchup this weekend against the New Orleans Saints. I'm really hoping to bounce back from that loss. Didn't look too great on Monday night. We talked about it a little bit earlier this week. They are looking to do some things, trying to establish a better run game and give quarterback Baker Mayfield some more options. And yesterday we heard from the offensive coordinator, Josh Grizzard, who talked a little bit about some of the adjustments that need to be made for Tampa Bay to get back on track with what has been a good season up until this past weekend. So how can they get back on track? Here's what they said about that.
What was kind of like your main takeaway about, like the learning lesson as a first-year play caller from Monday night?
See, as much as anything, the patience and how the game started and how well the defense was playing and trying to stick to some of the things we wanted to hit going in, lean on the run a little bit earlier. And then a lot of the things we harped on going into the week of handling the crowd noise, not getting into some second and longs and the turnover battle, where it was really the second game where we've had turnovers, and now it's the second one we've lost. But just the patience, trusting in the guys that it's going to be there, and again, trying to establish the run a little earlier, and just keep rolling with that.
And Josh, kind of talking about the run game, what led to that deviation? Because there was only 11 carries compared to Baker Mayfield throwing 50 passes out there.
Yeah, that 50 throws in a game cannot happen, and it's got to be through leaning on the run, trusting the run, and sticking to that, especially in the first half, being able to establish it, because once you got into the fourth quarter and it was, 13, 14 minutes left, and it essentially turned into a 2-minute drill, then you're really forced to throw it. But if we can handle that earlier on and keep that thing closer, that way we can now turn the fourth quarter into having an opportunity to run some of them. I think it evens the game out a little bit.
I know you trust Rashad a lot in pass protection, and he's a good receiver too as well, but you probably don't want to come out of that game with that much of a workload on him. And just the disparity between Sean Tucker, obviously Bucky's out. How do you get Sean more involved in the game plan, if that's an option?
Yeah, absolutely. It's not something we want to do with Shad being in there for that amount of plays. It comes down to what you said on a lot of the pass protection things where he is so good in it, and it's in the 2-minute drill where he's in there. But to go back to the point about running the ball, the more we can run it and establish it earlier, you're going to create longer drives. And at that point, Shad would be out, Tuck would be in there to spell him, have fresh legs, be able to go pound it. But I think both those things go hand in hand by being able to run it. Then you split the carries up a little bit more with having more opportunities at it.
The Lions ran man coverage on a majority, or on over half of their, coverage plays against the pass, and it seems like that's the first time you maybe have seen that this year. What did that look do for you when you were calling the game, and do you expect maybe some other teams to try that going forward against this offense?
Yeah, they're really a man coverage team. They're committed to that. They do a really good job of it, trying to disrupt you at the line of scrimmage. They had a good plan, and they got away from it a little bit in the Kansas City game and played a little bit more zone, but the man coverage showed up on tape, and it is a copycat league. So when you see some of those looks, if people feel like they have success with that, we definitely have to have better options, get our guys open, be able to run away from man, to be able to ultimately convert those third downs and be able to continue the drives.
Josh, I know it starts with Detroit being a good defense, but third down, he was 4 for 16 on Monday. Baker had 2 nice throws to Tez, but I think he had 13 yards on 11 throws when he went to anyone else. Is there something they did to throw things off or get you guys away from success on third down?
Yeah, they did a good job with it in terms of the man coverage and their plan on it. And, again, really need to have some things that gets our guys in better spots to be able to run away from that, to have some more throws. And then there were some unfortunate ones, too, where we really got exactly what we wanted and we weren't able to connect. So in those opportunities, we really got to be able to exploit the defense on taking advantage of those man looks. That way, might not discourage them from doing it the whole game, but they at least have to think about it if that's something they want to use moving forward.
This was really the first game where Baker was kind of off, right? Like he had a lot of high throws that were kind of uncharacteristic. We hadn't seen that, and I know that he was getting pressured, during the game. But when he comes to the sidelines, what are those conversations like, and how do you kind of approach him and try to settle him down to be a little bit more accurate on some of those throws?
I think part of it starts off, I got to give him a chance earlier in the game to get a little bit easier completions. That way he gets settled in. You get into the rhythm and the confidence of let's let this thing fly. And the protection side of it,
think we did a good job at times. There's other times where he didn't have much of a pocket to step up into, and that's something we addressed on the sideline as well. But I think being able to start and get some of those easier completions, now you get into the rhythm of now we're in our standard pass game, still being able to push the ball down the field. But he was calm through all of it. Didn't start off as well as we had liked. Got to have a fast start, but he was good through the whole game. You saw him battle. He took some real shots out there, and that's not shocking from the guy.
Is it hard when you're using resources, for the guy to chip or the tight end to stay in? And sometimes you got 3 on 7 out there. Can that be the math be difficult at times when you do that?
Yeah, when it comes to that, every week when we start the protection meetings, especially on third down, is that if there's not time to throw and there's not time to give Bake a good dish, then whatever routes we draw up are essentially for nothing. And so it starts with that. So there were definitely times with trying to protect the pocket and having not as many eligibles out. But at the end of the day, got to give these guys a better opportunity through some of the scheme, even if we are only getting those guys out, to be able to win versus man coverage and get open.
With the receivers down, are you fond? How fond are you, or how possible is it to use 2 backs? Where one can stay in, one can go out. Just like get maybe a 5th best player out there that's explosive.
Yeah, we look at it really in each window and on the early downs on each week. Does that give us the best opportunity to be able to get into some of those packages with the 2 backs out there? It's something we really didn't lean on last week as much, but it's really on a week-to-week thing on how much or how little we want to use it, or if it does give us an advantage in that game.
Josh, you kind of mentioned the pocket a little bit, and I wanted to get your thoughts on Michael Jordan, who he played on Monday night. He didn't play since week 2. How do you think he handled the transition going from left guard to right guard and just kind of holding his own?
Yeah, he battled in there. I know some plays that he wanted back, but him being able to fight through and be able to get back to be on the field for his guys and battle in terms, that's a really good defensive line. We said that going into it, especially getting Liam McNeil back. But, again, he had some wins and he had some losses in there, and just expecting it to improve and him to get healthier.
You mentioned Liam McNeil, and Graham is a good up-and-coming center, but Liam McNeil is a force. He's kind of like their Vita Vea, if you will. When you have a guy that just drives the center back on a couple plays, what does that do to the pocket, to any hope of trying to run the ball? Just how disruptive is that? You see it every day out here with Vita, but when you're having to game plan against that and that's happening, what does that do for you as a play caller?
Yeah, that goes to the game plan side of it on the Mondays or Tuesdays when you're looking at the game records, we call them, where you're looking at the Hutchinsons and the McNeils and how are we going to handle those guys. And that's part of it, being able to put the hands on Hutchinson. That way he can't rush the pocket, or if we are running it, trying to get as many hands and as many guys on McNeil to handle him, because he is a force. He's a hell of a player. I thought he did a really good job on his rehab and coming back, and he was definitely a force to be reckoned with in there.
How encouraging was it for you to see Tez again take a step forward, a great catch and run he made, continuing to make progress?
It's great to see, because he just continues to improve each week. He is electric with the ball in his hands, had some big plays. His ability to keep running, I mean, it was not fun being in the 2-minute drill for that long, but he was out there battling and wanted the ball. And there's some rookie mistakes he's got to clean up, but he's in a really good spot, and he comes out here and brings energy, and he's deserving of the ball.
Josh, you seem really calm and cool with your demeanor and all this, but I mean, you've been dealing with some significant injuries on offense from week 1, not having Chris and Tristan, and now with Mike being out the rest of the season. I know it's the next man up, and no one's going to cry for you, right? I mean, that's just part of the business. But does it feel like all these body blows are kind of taking a toll a little bit on the offense?
I think everybody's banged up. I mean, we're dealing with injuries, but I don't want this to sound bad towards the guys that are not in there on Mike and Chris and those guys, but I think as a staff, we find enjoyment in the guys that are now having a chance to play, the Tezes, the Cams, who have worked their whole life to get that opportunity, and who knows when that opportunity is going to come again. So getting those guys prepared as well as possible to go out there and make plays, because at the end of the day, that's their shot too. And they've worked really hard to get to the league and deserve the ball, and that's on us to try to put them in that position, and I find a lot of enjoyment in that.
And it helps with their career development too. Like if they're not playing this year, they're not going to be as ready to play for you next year, right? But if they are playing this year, then they're that further ahead as their continued career goes with the Buccaneers, right?
Absolutely. Anytime they can get on the field and they can take those game reps and get the feel for how much faster the game is than practice, what's that coverage structure, how do we need to get open, and then a lot of it is when you play these teams where with free agency, you're playing this same player we might have played in San Fran last year, we're playing this week, and so they have the banked reps of how does this guy guard this route? Is he fast? Is he slow? And so that helps him as well to have that memory bank of being able to use the skills they used maybe the previous year. So being on the field, they have invaluable reps of being able to take that stuff to the field.
Two more questions, please. When it comes to play action, it seems like this Bucs team doesn't use it too much in comparison to the rest of the league, the bottom five. And I wanted to ask, what's your philosophy on using play action? Is it maybe because of some of those personnel, injuries that you've had that you haven't utilized it as much, or what's your thought process?
That we don't use it?
Yeah.
I don't know who calculates what's exactly the play action. I feel like we use a pretty good amount of play action. I just don't know how they label it.
Baker took a couple of late hits against New Orleans last year, and he has said that they are sometimes less than clean. Are you okay with your quarterback putting that out there on the bulletin board at this point?
He's going to say what he's going to say. He's going to say what he's going to say. Oh, good. Yep.
About the Saints, when you watch them, they're a 1-6 team on their record, but they don't play like it. They're kind of a feisty bunch. What concerns you about the Saints defense when you see them on tape?
Yeah, they do not play like it at all. There's a lot of the same guys we saw last year. They've got a really veteran group. I think they're good, especially in the core of the defense. You see these DNs; these guys have been playing a long time. Both the stack linebackers, even going against Demario Davis back when I was in Miami, when he was with the Jets, he's still playing at a high level. Warner is too. Really well coached. Had some battles versus Coach Staley when he was with the Chargers. We were in Miami, so good scheme.
Big game coming up this weekend. We'll keep it here on Fox Local. We will be right back with more Fox 35 News Plus after this.
You're watching Fox 35 News Plus, streaming on Fox Local.
Welcome back into Fox 35 News Plus, and here's a live look at the U.S. Capitol in Washington, D.C. It's 1:15 on this Friday afternoon. It is day 24 of the government shutdown. Been hearing from a lot of lawmakers in our area, and we also have heard from the leadership of the Democrats speaking earlier today. We also heard from members of the Trump administration, and specifically Secretary of Transportation Sean Duffy, speaking just a little bit ago about the impacts as the government shutdown continues. Congressman Darren Soto, a Democrat from Florida's 9th Congressional District, held a virtual town hall meeting last night where he talked about the government shutdown, the impacts on healthcare costs, a number of other topics as well, where folks also had the chance to ask their questions of the congressman. And I want to play for you a little bit of that as he addressed some of the ongoing issues from this government shutdown that has now reached beyond 3 weeks. So here's some of what he had to say.
Welcome, everyone, to our second Obamacare town hall. We wanted to continue to keep you all updated on our negotiations to try to save Obamacare for the district and to stop major health care hikes. We see as Central Floridians are trying to make ends meet with rising costs, that we could see a huge rise in costs for healthcare for literally hundreds of thousands of our constituents. We're working on that and trying to reopen the government as soon as possible. We must come together by November 1st, which is just over a week away, and extend the premium tax credits for Obamacare, or else we could see premium increases of 75% or more on average for our constituents. Our district loves Obamacare. We have the second most enrollment of any district in the nation, with 275,000 constituents who get their health care through the ACA exchange. So this hits us especially hard. Notice has already started going out for folks on October 1st, and open enrollment starts on November 1st. Just to give you an idea, a family of four making the median income in Florida's 9th Congressional District of about $81,134, well, they would see an increase of $3,564 a year. That would be a 100% increase for the average family income-wise in our district. As folks get a little older, the 55 to 64 pre-Medicare crowd, they get hit even harder. An older couple age 62 with no minor kids making about $120,000 a year household, well, they see an increase of $10,200 annually. No one has that kind of money around to help. Florida also has more folks getting their private health care plans through Obamacare than any other state. A whopping 4.6 million Floridians get their health care on the Obamacare exchange. And the reasons are clear. We have a lot of small business owners. I know. I had my own commercial law practice for many years, had to make a payroll twice a month, and I made sure that my employees got health care through the ACA exchange because it was easier for a small business to do that than to have an employer-based plan. In addition, we have a lot of independent contractors. We are a community of entrepreneurs. We're hustling every day to make sure we make ends meet. And so a lot of folks, they get their health care through the exchange. You know, last week I wrote an op-ed in the Orlando Sentinel proclaiming Florida will be hit hardest by Obamacare cuts. And you know what? The fact checkers are in. PolitiFact rated that claim mostly true. Mostly true because we have the most folks who get their health care on the ACA exchange of any state in the nation. And the sad truth is that 2 million people won't be able to afford health insurance in Florida. 2 million Floridians will lose their health care if we don't get this resolved. And so that affects the whole health insurance system in Florida, including employer-based plans. You know, I've spoken to some local employers who love doing small business tours. I've heard some local employers get quoted as high as 24% more year over year, with averages between 6 and 10%. Because when you get more uninsured, we all pay for it. In addition, Medicare Advantage, very popular among our seniors. You'll see out-of-pocket expenses go up 10% or more if we see all these folks get uninsured. Our hospitals are feeling it, our local clinics, and so we need to come together with a bipartisan compromise. Fun fact, across the nation, there's actually more folks in Republican districts on Obamacare than even Democratic ones. Of course, not in our district, but overall, this is not about politics. This is about people. This is about helping millions of Americans continue to have health care at a time when people are struggling for costs, struggling to make ends meet. And so I'm committed to a bipartisan compromise. Heck, even if we could get it extended at least a year, that's better than nothing right now. And income caps, there are a bunch of things we could work on, but we need to compromise. And that to me is the reason why the government is shut down right now. President Trump and the majority are unwilling to compromise on an issue that hurts all our constituents. You know, most members of Congress from Florida have at least 100,000 people, 100,000 constituents who are on the exchange. That's a lot of folks. So we need to make sure we're working with each other and reopening the government. Over these last 2 weeks, I've also met with many federal workers. Not only do we have 271,000 folks who get the premium tax credits, 275,000 altogether on Obamacare, but we also have 10,000 plus federal workers. So I've met with our air traffic controllers. I've met with our TSA agents, with the hardworking folks at the VA helping our veterans, the folks helping our seniors at our Social Security offices, the folks helping our troops defend the nation in Department of Defense, as well as our aviation specialists at the airport. They understand this fight about healthcare. They want us to open the government again as soon as possible, and so do I. But they also want me to use my best judgment and ensure a lawless president is being held accountable. When we see President Trump ignoring budgets passed by Congress, shuttering agencies like the Department of Education, USAID, doing mass firings, all without congressional authorization, all without congressional approval, those are unlawful. And it's hurting literally thousands of federal workers, including folks in our district. Thankfully, the courts have stopped some of these things, like the mass layoffs he tried to do during the shutdown, which are illegal. But we continue to stand with our federal workers and are going to do everything we can to compromise and resolve this. We also have a longer-term fight that may not happen as we resolve this, but we have to fix it. When we saw the big ugly law pass, there were record cuts to Medicaid and record cuts to SNAP. Nearly $1 trillion in cuts to Medicaid are coming through the big ugly law. That's going to hurt seniors, veterans, young people, especially kids. Kid care is very popular in our area. And then, of course, our individuals with disabilities in the area. And so what we'll see is next year there'll be new paperwork requirements. And so you could see folks get disenrolled because they fail to comply. And then next year you'll see the Florida legislature have to work on 15% cuts to Florida's Medicaid program. And then 25% cuts to SNAP. That's going to hurt our local farmers, our local ranchers, and also so many families in need. Thankfully, there's another election between now and then. So the American people will have decisions again to be able to make to see if we can stop those cuts. And then we also see Medicare cuts because of the big ugly law. They cut so many taxes for billionaires and racked up so much debt, $4 trillion in new debt, that it puts Medicare in jeopardy under the Budget Stabilization Act. That law can trigger $536 billion in cuts to Medicare by the end of the year. We need to come together to address that and fix that. In addition, we've seen other costs rise because of Trump's tariffs and mass deportations and creating a workforce shortage here in Florida. Grocery costs continue to rise, yet Congress hasn't passed a farm bill to help our farmers, our ranchers, and as importantly, our consumers. We need to come together on that. That would help set great ag policy and help with grocery store budgets that are rising. And then, of course, affordable housing, which we've done a lot on that. We'll talk a little bit more in other times, but we need to have a generational housing bill to help both first-time home buyers and so many others who are finding it tough to be able to afford housing. Lastly, corruption. We've seen President Trump be embroiled in multiple corruption scandals over the last few weeks alone. We've seen him and his family make an astounding $2 billion this year alone on cryptocurrency schemes involving foreign nationals, involving foreigners who are trying to influence the president. We see just this past week or two, a bailout of Argentina, $40 billion. So there's not $30 billion apparently that he's willing to support to fix America's health system for a year, but there's $40 billion to bail out Argentina because his billionaire buddies are losing their shirts down there because of issues they have economically. And to make it even worse, he wants to import a whole bunch of new Argentinian beef and hurt our local ranchers here in Central Florida. I'm proud to represent cattle country. We won't stand for that. And we're not doing this just so he can help his rich buddies down there. And then we see a billionaire ballroom that was put together without congressional authorization, paid for by shaking down major companies that he sued and threatened. And then just today, he pardoned a billionaire cryptocurrency fraudster, Changpeng Zhao, who he's personally doing business with. This corruption has to stop. And we need our colleagues on the other side of the aisle to come together to make sure we are stopping a lawless president from doing this. We are coming together to help out, to lower healthcare costs, to lower grocery costs, to save Medicaid and Medicare, and to make sure that we could put our country back on proper footing. Thank you for taking the time today to hear from me, and I'm looking forward to hearing your questions.
All right, Congressman, let's go to our first question. Our first question comes from Barbara in St. Cloud. Barbara, you are on live. What's your question?
Hi, am I being asked? Thank you so much, and I appreciate it. I'm listening to all the good things you are doing, and I appreciate it so much. On the health issue, I am concerned about another health person, and that is this teenage boy, American citizen, lives in Palm Bay, Florida, who is in an Israeli jail. I mean, is there anything that you are doing about trying to get him out? His health is deteriorating. He's lost a quarter of his weight, and he has scabies because he's imprisoned in American citizen. I mean, can't we get him out? Is there anything you can do?
Thank you for that great question. We've been in contact with Representative Kathy Castor. His family are constituents of hers, and we have sent out communications to the Department of State encouraging them to get involved. American citizens, whether they're abroad in the tough situation in Gaza and in Israel or in other places around the world, need to be a priority for presence and for the State Department. So we will, I know my team met with some family members who came in to visit our office, and we will continue to express to the State Department about making sure he has a fair trial and that he's justly treated. Thank you for that great question.
Okay, well, Congressman, let me ask a question for her because I can't seem to connect her. He would like to know if this is going to affect people on SSI. Will this affect people on SSI?
Thank you so much. So Social Security and SSI benefits will continue to flow, but we do know that our federal workers are doing the best with cuts that have already happened to the Social Security office, with firings, and also with folks being encouraged to retire early. And so we do see these services happening slower right now. I do also want to sound the alarms because we've seen President Trump propose a huge rollback of SSI, claiming it's not the same because it's folks who are facing disabilities rather than seniors, and how that shouldn't be as much of a part of the program. Obviously, this has been a part of the program for many years, and we support those who paid into the system their whole lives should they face a disability, and it's proven they should have access to those benefits. So we will push back from proposed cuts to SSI. We need to make sure this continues to be a priority, and folks should continue to, if you already have qualified for those benefits, to receive those benefits, as well as benefits to Social Security. But we need to compromise on this issue regarding Obamacare, get the government back open, and make sure that we're not seeing any more mass layoffs in attempts to attack our federal workers who are in the Social Security Administration. As I mentioned in my opening, we met with some of these Social Security workers, and they are feeling beat down and attacked on a daily basis. And so we need these are folks who are public servants who are trying to help provide services to our district. We appreciate all the things you're doing, and we want to be supportive of them. Let's take our next question.
You got it. The next question comes from Victor. Victor, you are on live. What is your question?
Thank you for taking my call. Representative Soto, you had mentioned that you were working with Representative Castor's office, and I apparently see you signed a letter. Are you willing to, or have you co-signed that letter? Also, regarding the family members that are imprisoned, have a family member imprisoned in Israel. You said your staff members have met with the family members. Did you meet with them? And along the same lines, for several years, you have completely supported the funding.
That's from that town hall meeting, a virtual town hall meeting last night that the Congressman Soto held on Facebook. Went for about 45 minutes, I believe, so a pretty lengthy town hall there. If you'd like to see more of that, you can find that on his Facebook page. We are going to take a quick break here on Fox 35 News Plus, but we'll be right back with more coverage coming up in just a couple of minutes. So keep it here on Fox Local and YouTube, and we'll be right back.
You're watching Fox 35 News Plus, streaming on Fox Local.
Welcome back into Fox 35 News Plus. I'm Garrett Weimer, and thanks for joining us on this Friday afternoon, live on Fox Local and on YouTube. But we talked earlier about Robin Severance Lopez, the estranged wife of suspended Osceola County Sheriff Marcos Lopez. The two of them are facing charges in connection with an alleged illegal gambling ring out of Osceola and Lake counties. Have been facing charges for this. And as we reported yesterday, we first reported yesterday, that Robin Severance Lopez is now back behind bars, now arrested on some new charges after she had bonded out of jail on the previous charges. She was due in court at 1:30 this afternoon for a first appearance in Osceola County. We learned that she is not going to make that appearance this afternoon because she has been picked up by Lake County. Because the warrant she was arrested on at her home in Osceola was from a warrant out of Lake County. So she has now been picked up by Lake County and is expected to appear and make her first appearance in Lake County tomorrow. So we don't have that hearing for you this afternoon, but we are going to delve in a little bit more into this case. And so we want to bring in Jose Rivas, who is a criminal defense attorney, not affiliated with this case, but always has a lot of good perspective and expertise for us to share. So Jose, we appreciate you joining us this afternoon here on Fox 35 News Plus.
Thank you for having me today.
So we're talking about Robin Severance Lopez, who is now back behind bars, accused of providing false information during the earlier bail process. And I'm just curious what sort of information it is that is asked for when you're kind of going through that initial, bonding out process, and kind of what what could potentially lead to a charge like this.
We don't know the specifics yet because we don't have the actual warrant affidavit, but it could be anything from submitting, fraudulent documents or perhaps omitting. The statute specifically say no to should have known it's important information. Perhaps she omitted some kind of evidence, or she did not disclose. Perhaps giving up the wrong residence. Some bank statements that perhaps she omitted, or any kind of collateral. Those are all things that the state is looking or scrutinizing in this particular case. Which this is a very, very rare charge. It is a charge that you usually do not see in the state of Florida.
That's interesting. I was going to ask that because it's not something that I don't think I've really seen a whole lot of. And so, what would it? Why is that rare? Do you think?
Well, I can tell you that, I've been practicing since 2007, the first time I ever even seen this statute. It's very rare, but why is it being done in this case? It's being done because she's probably one of the few co-defendants that have not already entered a plea. So the statewide prosecution is scrutinizing every single document, everything, and trying to get her back in jail, perhaps to pressure her into taking a deal or testifying against the other co-defendants.
You mentioned the other deals. We have seen many of them that have kind of come to those, and made those pleas. What would be happening in a case like this as some of those other co-defendants do enter those pleas, and how does that change this kind of ongoing investigation in the case against some of the other co-defendants when you're talking about several of them in an alleged kind of conspiracy like this?
Reality is the worst enemy of a criminal defense attorney is time and money. You can always go out and try to find the money. The problem is when you don't have time, when you're in custody, right, you're going to be coerced or forced to take a deal because you want to get out of jail, a deal you don't want to sit there and wait until you go to trial. So you have no time. The state's going to pressure you. Listen, you can get out tomorrow if you enter this plea. And that's something really that they try to coerce or force to be able to take control of the case.
What impact does this new charge against Robin Severance Lopez have on the kind of larger case here, or if any?
Minimal. It's really a misdemeanor, but based on the fact of the original charge, the most it can be is a third-degree felony. So she's entitled to a bond. She's entitled to a bond on this particular charge. The problem is that the law says that the judge can revoke or modify the original bond, which is a $400 bond. If the bond is revoked, she would lose the premium, which is almost $40,000. So what we're looking to do is hopefully the judge tomorrow will issue her bond because she's entitled to a bond on the new law violation. But the issue is, will she revoke the previous bond that she was out on? Because one of the conditions of pretrial release that you do not commit any new crime violations unless the defense can demonstrate that this crime occurred before she was placed on pretrial release, before she posted bond. Therefore, it's not a new law violation, and it should not. The original bond should not be revoked.
That's an interesting point that you raised there. That that with this being a misdemeanor charge, so do you expect then to see her get bond for this new charge, but the original bond that she was out on, that she is now accused of falsifying some information to get, that could be revoked, is what you're saying?
That is correct. The new charge that it's a third-degree felony. She's entitled to a bond by law. The question becomes if the judge is going to revoke the original bond. The law says that the judge may revoke or may modify. In other words, if you falsified about, let's say, $100,000 worth of value in the bond, perhaps she can modify the bond, increase the bond, or modify the original bond. That's the question that we're going to have to look at tomorrow. And it could be that tomorrow when she goes in front of the judge is going to say, no, I'm not going to deal with this issue right now. Let's set it for a hearing, or go in front of the original judge that issued the bond, issued the warrant.
What will that judge be looking for to kind of make that determination and make that decision?
Well, this is one of those charges that it's not a new law violation. For example, you get rearrested for a new law violation, you committed a crime. It's very simple. Probable cause is all you need for an arrest. The question becomes, what's the validity of it? If I was a criminal defense attorney on this case, what I would do is I would say, Judge, do not take any action on the original bond. Let's have a hearing, because revoking the bond on the first charge is kind of, is punishing her and treating her as she's convicted or guilty of the actual crime itself. So it's not one of those crimes that it's easy to prove, hey, you were arrested for DUI, whatnot. They have to come have a hearing and be convicted that she actually falsified or omitted any information in order to suffer the consequences, which is to revoke the bond.
So would you expect her to, be back behind bars for a little bit then at this point?
Well, tomorrow the judge has two options. The judge can either go ahead and take no action on the previous, on the original bond, the $400,000 bond, and issue her bond on the new case, which in that case she would walk out, and the state can do a motion to revoke bond. That would get set for a hearing, and at that point the state will determine, or the judge will determine, if she's committed the new law offense and if they should revoke the original bond. I think that would be the most adequate and most fair in this process.
All right, it's going to be interesting to see. And Jose Rivas, I really appreciate you joining us. You've really helped kind of understand what is going to be kind of playing out here. So I really appreciate you joining us and breaking that down for us. I think it's definitely been helpful to me, and I'm sure it's been helpful to our viewers as well. So thank you.
Thank you.
And again, that first appearance now scheduled for tomorrow. And like he said, we'll wait and see if that decision is made, if there's another hearing on the matter. So we will stay tuned and have more updates on that tomorrow on Fox 35 News. We're going to take a quick break here on Fox 35 News Plus, but we'll be right back after this.
You're watching Fox 35 News Plus, streaming on Fox Local.
Welcome back into Fox 35 News Plus. Interesting to hear Jose Rivas talk with us about the Robin Severance Lopez, the new charge that she is facing that took her back behind bars after being out on bond previously. And we'll stay tuned to see what comes out of that first appearance in court that is now tomorrow. As we said, she was expected in court this afternoon. That no longer happening. She expected now to make her first appearance in Lake County tomorrow, so we will see what comes from that. The other big story we're following up on today and the fallout from this alleged NBA betting scheme that now put Miami Heat guard Terry Rozier behind bars. He was arrested here in Orlando early yesterday morning. Fox 35's Manny Martinez had the chance to speak with a sports and gaming attorney, Daniel Wallach, who is based out of Florida, and they talked about the fallout from this and whether something like this is a problem for the NBA and for sports when you're talking about sports betting, sports gaming. And here is some of their conversation about kind of what this means now moving forward.
Just how damning is this indictment for the NBA?
Not particularly damning at all. It's damning for the individual athletes involved if the allegations are true. But the Rozier story, that's 2 years old. That was previously reported on. The Chauncey Billups story, or the accusations there, relate more to a poker ring. And I think the NBA has had its mini scandals or episodes from time to time involving, athletes like Jonte Porter and now Terry Rozier. You're not, that's one of the advantages of having robust regulation of sports wagering. You have integrity monitoring, you have bet monitoring. Companies are watching the activity, and whenever there's unusual or suspicious wagering activity, maybe due to the disproportionate amount of money wagered on something that shouldn't be generating that much activity, it raises red flags, and the red flags spawn investigations, and investigations lead to indictments. This is precisely how state regulation of sports wagering should work. 10 years ago, we may not have learned of any of these episodes, and we're discovering them because of the early detection systems and the early warning systems that are baked into the state regulation of sports wagering. You're not going to learn about this from the mafia unless you have wiretaps, and you're certainly not going to learn about it on the sports prediction markets because there are no rules or regulations that have been passed by the CFTC, the Commodity Futures Trading Commission, that even deal with gambling or sporting events. So those companies are basically self-regulating. The only real accountability and the only real robust integrity monitoring framework is occurring on state-regulated systems and tribal-regulated systems. So it is not a major scandal for the NBA. This is a continuation of sports integrity working effectively to identify those who try to corrupt the games and try to take advantage of inside information. As long as sports have existed, people are going to wager on the outcome of the games, and when there's temptations to try to gain an edge, whether it's through inside information or to pay somebody to throw their performance, those are always going to exist and have existed since time immemorial. But now we have the tools, much better tools, to detect that because of the state regulation of sports wagering. Okay, it's I think the timing of today's news release tried to cast a greater pale over the NBA's activities to suggest that it was somehow an NBA insider trading scandal. Far from it. The NBA has had episodes like this in the past, and so have other leagues, and they've just been dealt with one episode at a time because of the role that the regulators and the integrity monitors are playing to cooperate with law enforcement. So they're not going to go away. We can just better detect them now.
And so, first of all, I forgot how good you are at this. You know your stuff. I love hearing your insight. This is a system that worked, essentially, is what you're saying. The checks, they worked, and they found this. But how do these, and you've listed a couple of the scandals, but don't they chip away a little bit at the integrity and from the fans' perspective?
Well, I think the fans, if there are more of these episodes, it may create a negative perception in fans' minds. But I don't think anyone watching the Knicks Cavaliers game last night is thinking, oh my God, the players are manipulating their own performance to cash in on prop bets or to benefit gambling syndicates. Nobody in their right mind believes that. The episodes involving Terry Rozier and Jonte Porter have largely been relating to individual player prop bets. That's where the real risk is. When one player can alter his own performance in a way and then tip off gamblers that he's either going to pull himself out of a game, he's injured, he's not going to meet his statistical benchmarks. That's the real vulnerability in sporting events and sports betting. Game outcomes. I mean, there hasn't been anything akin to like a 1919, Black Sox scandal that anyone is accusing the NBA of being, party to. These are individual athletes and coaches who allegedly have made very bad decisions, and they got caught.
we'll continue to track the fallout and look into that. A lot of interesting developments from that case. And in fact, in our 2 o'clock hour, you'll hear more of our conversation with an investigator who spent nearly 3 decades in the FBI and was able to give us a little bit of perspective on what goes into an investigation like this. So we'll have that coming up in just a little bit. Well, there's a new book out from a Fox News anchor, Fox News chief political anchor, Bret Baier, writing this new book about Teddy Roosevelt. It's called To Rescue the American Spirit, Teddy Roosevelt and the Birth of a Superpower. And Bret was on Good Day Orlando this morning talking with Fox 35's Ryan Elijah about the book and the lessons that can be learned from history.
As many people know, you're a big history fan. You've written several presidential biographies. What was it that stood out about Teddy Roosevelt? Because he's got some amazing stories, I know.
Yeah, and that's part of it. This is actually the 6th presidential biography that I've done. And, you know, the stories of Teddy Roosevelt jump off the page. The anecdotes are really rich. He's a character that really changed history. And this book is really about the soda straw look at his effort to make America a forward-leaning power in the world. And to do that, he negotiates a peace treaty between warring countries, Russia and Japan. He brings them to Portsmouth, New Hampshire, sets up the logistics, works between the countries, eventually gets that deal and gets the Nobel Peace Prize for it.
Which is amazing. And there's also another story where he gets shot, Bret, and he kept speaking after getting shot.
Yeah, so this is after he's president. He tours around the world. He goes to Paris. He gives this speech that eventually becomes the Man in the Arena speech, which says, you got to get in the game. You can't just be a critic from the outside. Well, he's basically talking to himself. So he runs for president again in a third party, tries to get his party's nomination, doesn't work. He becomes the candidate in the Bull Moose Party. He's giving a speech in Milwaukee, and an assassin tries to shoot him. The bullet hits his eyeglass case in his jacket and a 50-page speech that he had there. It does go into his chest, and his chest is all bloody. But he continues to speak for 45 minutes, delivering this speech, and they finally take him to get some medical attention. But that's the kind of guy he was. Like, those kind of stories are anecdotes throughout this thing.
Looking forward to hearing more of those. And Bret, I think a lot of people will probably hear this, and they think as demanding as your schedule is being an author a bit of release for you? And then where do you find the time to write these books?
Yeah, so it's cathartic. It really is. It's really cool for me. I've really gotten into it. I'm addicted to it. This is the 6th. I did Eisenhower, Reagan, FDR, Grant, Washington, and now Teddy Roosevelt. And I write at night. I have a great team, a researcher who gets these nuggets in National Archives, and it's a lot of fun for me.
I'm sure it is. And you're coming to Florida for a book tour. I know a lot of people want to know. What can you tell us about that now?
Yeah, I'm going to be at Vero Beach. I'll be at the Villages over the weekend. I think I have 2 more stops. You can go to BretBaier.com, and I've got the list of all the places I'm going.
And I'm sure to get the book, Bret, you can go to basically all the places you'd find the popular books at.
Yeah, Amazon. You can go to my website, BretBaier.com. You can go any place. Should be in the airports and everything. We're excited about it. This one is really, I think, going to do well, and I hope people like it. I think looking at history is important, not just to see where we've been, but often where we are now and where we could go.
Yeah, it certainly can be a helpful guide. That's for sure. Well, Fox 35, the Fox 35 Care Force teaming up with the American Cancer Society tomorrow for Making Strides Against Breast Cancer. The 3 locations for those Making Strides walks in our area: 1 in downtown Orlando, 1 in Daytona Beach, 1 in Melbourne. And throughout Breast Cancer Awareness Month, the month of October, Good Day Orlando has been sharing the stories of people touched by cancer on Survivor Friday, and they had another story and another person today.
And this morning, Chavalise Allers is joining us, and she has a really special story to share with all of us. Great to have you, Chavalise. Thank you so much
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
Take me back to 2021. For you, what was going on in your life at the time that you were diagnosed?
I was working. I own a law firm, so it was very busy. The way that I find out that I was having breast cancer, I was in an airplane on my way to Colombia to a friend's wedding, and I received a call right when we are going to take off from my primary doctor telling me, giving me the news.
I can't even imagine. That must have felt like the longest flight of your life.
It was. It sure was.
Emotionally, what was going on right there?
I started crying. Because you don't know. Is it spread? Where is it? How big is the tumor? It's a lot of uncertainty. So the only thing she said is, don't do anything. Don't do surgeries. And I wasn't going for that, right? But it's very nerve-wracking because you don't know what's next.
So did you feel anything at the time? I think this is something that I always like for women to know, that, I felt fine. I didn't feel sick. There was nothing going on that, would have prompted me to think that I had cancer. Were you feeling okay at the time?
I was feeling fine. I did have a lump, but I didn't give it too much, attention until my mom and my boyfriend said, I think you need to go check it. And then my primary said, I don't think it's nothing, but let's go ahead and check. And, after that, it was a mammogram, a biopsy, and that's how it was detected.
Tell me a little bit about your treatments, because you did go through some pretty intensive treatments, and you are still, even as a survivor, there are still things that you have to do to make sure that you stay a survivor. So talk to me about some of that.
Yeah, so my treatment was, we started with chemo. The tumor was very big, and they tried to reduce it in size with chemo. So that's how we started. We did chemo. The chemo, thank God, worked. It reduced the sizing and the size of it. And then we did a lumpectomy and a breast reduction. And then radiation.
Right. And so talk to me about, now you are here 4 years later. Where are you at now? How do you feel about your cancer treatments? And as a survivor, what are some of the things that still concern you?
Well, you never know when it can come back. So that's always a worry. But, we have to trust above, before God, we have to also trust science. So we go through treatment, post-treatment, which are some ovarian suppression, other pills. And, sometimes you have some side effects. You have joint pain, you have, a lot of other symptoms. But we try, at least I try to just thrive and then just continue my normal life, even feeling, those type of symptoms.
Chavaliz, you are a very successful attorney. Talk to me about what it was like to try to continue to work through all of this.
Well, it was hard, but I've always said I am going to live my life as normal as I can. So my team was amazing. I had a lot of colleagues also, helping me. I was very private about it because I didn't want to have any perks or any, people, judges or clerks, feeling sorry for me. So I didn't say anything until after the treatment was over. But I worked from the chemo room. I worked, when I was going through my appointments, my clients didn't know. I didn't want anybody to know. It was just my immediate family and circle.
Why is it important for you now?
Inspiring stories of survival, and we hope you join us out at Lake Eola tomorrow, or one of the other locations as well, for making strides against breast cancer. It's certainly a good cause and something that has touched so many lives and so many loved ones here in Central Florida and across the country as well. Well, we appreciate you joining us here on Fox 35 News Plus. We are going to step aside, take a quick break, and then we'll be right back at the top of the hour with Florida Live. We will welcome in our TV audience. We are standing by as well to hear from Senator Ashley Moody speaking in Kissimmee. So keep it right here. We've got more to come next. Right.